Chapter 338. Waves of Xian beasts shuttled back and forth between the trees and the ground, exchanging countless messages with each other. On the treetops, the flying Xian beasts vigilantly watched the direction of Tiannan City. From time to time, a wave would fly back to the treetops and another wave would fly out. It was obvious that they were changing shifts. Not far away in the darkness, there was no telling how many large Xian beasts were hiding. It could be said that in the current Tian Fa forest for the continent's Xian practitioners, every moment, every place could be a fatal trap. But for Jun Dashao, these fatal traps were a different matter. For example, right now, Jun Dashao's 2 feet were firmly stepping on the head of a 9th-level Xian tiger. Unfortunately, this king of tigers didn't seem to notice it at all. He was still conversing with the other Xian tigers beside him. Roar! Roar? Did you notice anything? Woo-woo. Roar. No. Roar. Woo-woo, GA. I want to eat meat. Woo-woo. GA. I also want to eat meat. Woo-woo-woo. GA. How's your little honey? Didn't your wife notice? Woo, GA, GA, hey, roar. Proudly. How satisfying. That old woman. How could she notice? Humph. Even though Jun Dashao was resourceful, he still couldn't understand what they were saying. But seeing that the 2 Xian tigers were actually making lewd faces, out of curiosity, Jun Dashao couldn't help but stop for a moment. After all, it was not common to see 2 tigers with such lascivious expressions. Of course, Jun Moxie definitely didn't have a powerful translation ability like me. Jun Dashao, who couldn't understand the tiger language, finally had no choice but to leave. Silently floating up, Dashao purposely exerted a bit more force on his feet. The Xian tiger's head inexplicably drooped down, almost hitting the ground. Roar! It stood up, its iron-like tail wagging suspiciously. It looked around with uncertainty and bared its teeth. Roar, roar, roar. Did you guys notice something? Why do I feel like I've been hit in the head? Roar. GA hung. The 4 golden tigers rolled their eyes at the same time and gave it a look of disdain. Roar. GA hung GA. You must have had too much fun last night, right? Look at your listless face. Gurgurgur. Damn it, I'm in good health. The golden tiger stretched out a furry front paw and rubbed its head like a human. It tilted its head and pondered for a while, but it still couldn't figure it out. It simply stopped thinking about that inexplicable matter, stretched its body, and lay down again to continue discussing with its companions about how to pick up girls. Deep in the Tian Fa forest. Did you send the letter of challenge? The black-robed man asked with little White in his arms. Well, I reckon that these arrogant humans will accept the challenge. Long Crane blinked his slender eyes. Well, I'll go into closed-door training for a while. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. The black-robed man sighed and said, I've been feeling that I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. My body's strength has accumulated to its limit, and it's difficult to stop. This battle has come at a bad time. Don't worry, boss. Your breakthrough is the most important matter right now, and you mustn't be careless. We'll take care of everything, and there won't be any accidents. Long Crane and Bear Mountain said at the same time. Well, it's decided. You'll take care of this little thing for now, and try to find out its owner before the decisive battle. You mustn't accidentally injure him. I think that this little thing's owner is someone from the Dugu family of Tianxiang. We can use this as a basis for our investigation. The black-robed man placed Little White in Bear Mountain's arms. Bear Mountain grinned and placed Little White on top of his head. It was as if a black gorilla was wearing a snow-white hat. For a moment, it was quite comical. The black-robed man chuckled and disappeared abruptly. The speed of his movement was really shocking. Boss's Xian cultivation is getting more and more exquisite. If you can successfully break through to level 12, then you'll be able to reach the transcendent realm of the king of Tianxiang, right? I'm afraid that we won't be able to reach such a realm for the rest of our lives. We can only look up to it, Long Crane said with infinite envy and sadness. Alas, we're just too good for nothings. We're stuck at level 10. Damn it. We'll burn incense if we can reach level 11 in this lifetime. Bear Mountain hung his head dejectedly and said, it's not easy to find someone who can help us advance. Moreover, the conditions they offered weren't too difficult. But that old bastard Li Ju Tian messed it up. That old bastard. I'll get my hands on him and eat his flesh. The more he spoke, the more indignant he became. Suddenly, he grabbed Little White, opened his mouth, and strangely, his mouth became as big as half a basin, and threw Little White into his mouth. Then, with a achoo sound, he sprayed Little White into the air. He raised his head and caught Little White in his mouth, and then sneezed again. Little White was scared out of his wits by Fourth Brother's prank. He squeaked loudly, and the two unscrupulous Xian Beast Kings laughed until their eyebrows disappeared. It turned out that ordinary bears weren't the only ones who liked to play with balls. The Xian Beast Kings also liked to play with balls. Looking at Big Bear's posture, it was quite typical. Enough. Don't make fun of him. You'll be in big trouble if you scare him to death. This little guy's master must have a deep relationship with that expert. So, you'll be caught blind if he reports you. Long Crane looked towards a certain direction in the Tian Fa forest. Then, he thoughtfully said, I don't know what will happen to the sacred fruit that the Snake King has been eyeing. What's the use of thinking about that thing? In any case, we definitely won't have a share. Furthermore, our Yuan power has already reached the limit of breaking through. If we recklessly consume it now, the only result will be our bodies exploding. Boss said that we can only let them use it this time. At our current stage, even if we are allowed to use it, we won't be able to. But I don't know if they'll survive. Bear Mountain caught Little White and put him on his head. He didn't dare to play with the little guy again. Suddenly, the fourth bear furiously stamped his foot. This is all because of that bastard Li Ju Tian and that unlucky son of his. We wouldn't have gotten into this mess if we had completed our mission earlier. We would have been able to break through in one fell swoop with the help of that expert, and that would have been the best time to consume the sacred fruit. But that bastard father and son have made us miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I can't restrain my anger. I'll find an opportunity to kill the little one, even if I can't deal with the old one. We've missed this opportunity, so there's no need to think about it anymore. This is a very difficult and dangerous task. Several Xian Beast Kings have been unfortunate enough to not be able to withstand the effects of the sacred fruit every time it has appeared, and their bodies have exploded, and they've died. Sigh. Long Crane's eyes revealed a trace of worry. What should we do if we lose a few people at this critical juncture? Both of them remained silent. They looked towards the depths of the dense forest, and a thoughtful look appeared on their faces. They were faintly nervous. June Moxie advanced like a gust of wind towards the depths of the forest. Da Xiao had been deliberately searching for the auras of Bear Shan Shan and the fourth bear. But the Tian Fa forest was too vast, so it wasn't easy to find them. Just as he was hurriedly weaving through the forest, he suddenly froze and stopped. That's because he had discovered that the air in this area was abnormally viscous. Moreover, it was brimming with all kinds of violent toxins. This was a highly toxic area. According to Da Xiao's judgment, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that even a Xianqi expert of Tian Xian's level would be poisoned to death in an instant if they were to breathe the air in this area. It was extremely overbearing. What kind of poison is this? How can it be so overbearing? Junimo Xie instantly broke out in a cold sweat. If he wasn't in the state of using the yin-yang escape technique, with his current insignificant cultivation, he would have already fallen down and turned into a pile of bones. Then, a rustling sound came from afar. June Moxie's body suddenly turned sluggish as he looked ahead. A green light flashed, and a green-clothed girl suddenly appeared under a tree. Her face was unusually excited as she bent down to check something. The green-clothed girl's skin was exceptionally fair. Her facial features were picturesque, and her beauty was indescribable. Her entire body was brimming with a mysterious aura that seemed innocent and charming at the same time. Her figure was graceful, and it could be said that this green-clothed girl's figure was worthy of being called the best amongst all the women June Mo Xie had ever seen. From her jade-like neck to her ankles, her figure was like a natural streamline. The places that should be protruded were protruding exaggeratedly, while the places that should be concave were naturally concave. However, the concave was extremely exaggerated and captivating. Looking at the shape of her face, she was at most 17 or 18 years old. He really didn't know how she developed. This was a typical angel's face and devil's figure. However, June Moxie didn't have the time to be amazed. He also didn't have the time to wonder why this green-clothed girl would appear in this perilous Tion-Fa forest. He couldn't understand why this green-clothed girl wasn't the least bit afraid of this extremely terrifying poison. His attention had already been completely attracted by another matter. Under that tree, there was a strangely shaped special plant. Just its pinky thick stalk was already colorful. From top to bottom, there were 9 pieces of leaves, sparkling and translucent. Each piece of leaf was a different color. On each piece of leaf, there was a drop of sparkling and translucent dew. The dew rolled back and forth but did not fall off the leaf. At the very top, there was a strange fruit that was flickering with 7-colored fluorescence. It was slowly and gradually emitting a strange smell. Chapter 339. Heavens! How much poison has accumulated in the fruit. Even a strong warrior like Shun Xian would die after eating it. With the influx of poison, the color of the fruit changed again as it reached its darkest color. White, pure white, but the poison was still pouring in like crazy. Could it be the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit? June Moxie was so shocked that his brain was in knots, and his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. He didn't expect to find such an evil fruit in the Tion-Fa forest, and it was even the final form of the evil fruit. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit, as the name suggests, has an unbelievably strong poison. As far as June Moxie knows, there's almost no living thing that can resist its poison. Even a golden immortal of legend would probably be unable to resist this poisonous fruit that gathered the fortune of the heavens and the earth. This kind of fruit can only grow in a place with a high concentration of poisons, and during the growth process, it needs to be watered with a huge amount of poison. Only in a place where the air is densely packed with poisons can this fruit have the opportunity to grow. The most demanding thing is, once it starts to grow, the amount of poison it needs cannot be reduced. It can only be increased, otherwise, it will wither at any time. The growth cycle of the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit is relatively short. It only needs 1 year to mature. However, during this process, the amount of poison it needs is absolutely enormous. To put it bluntly, even if there were 10,000 different kinds of poisons piled up in this place, it would still be absorbed by this fruit in a short year. The originally poisonous things will all turn into a pile of garbage and dregs. In addition, once this evil fruit starts to grow, it can't be stopped until the fruit is ripe. Once stopped, the evil fruit will wither and wither at any time. Until the fruit is ripe, it will first be white, then pink, blue, green, yellow, cyan, purple, silver, and finally purple gold. When it reaches the purple gold color, the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit is no longer a poisonous fruit, but a type of medicine that can cure any kind of poison in the world and can also increase one's cultivation. The occurrence of such a miraculous change was actually reasonable. There were no absolutes in this world. In this world, there were all sorts of things in the world where extreme yin gave birth to yang. Extreme yin gave birth to extreme yang, and extreme misfortune gave birth to bliss. The extremely poisonous 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit could also evolve into the miraculous effect of great poison. However, the purple golden 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit couldn't be directly swallowed. Otherwise, even if one had an invincible cultivation base, one's body would explode in an instant and die miserably. The powerful medicinal power was like a dozen atomic bombs that had been concentrated thousands of times and exploded in his body at the same time. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit was ranked 6th in the Hongjun Pagoda's medicinal introduction. It was also one of the important ingredients for refining the 99 firmament pill. As the name suggested, this was a super pill that could only be refined by June Moxie when he ascended to the 9th level of the Hongjun Pagoda. In fact, the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit could be used to refine miraculous pills in the 6th, 7th, and 8th levels of the Hongjun Pagoda. However, the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit would be specially mentioned after each pill's recipe. It would be a waste to use the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit in refining the pill. In fact, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call this fruit the #1 spirit fruit if it weren't for its overbearing properties. This was because this fruit had to be stored in a special place if it couldn't be used immediately. In fact, it had to be placed in a 1,000-year mysterious jade box. Even a good quality white jade box would be corroded by this fruit in an instant. Otherwise, this fruit would only exist for a short period of a day. Then it would wither. Moreover, all the medicinal effects would return to the ground once it withered. The area surrounding the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit would become barren. It would become a land of death for hundreds of miles. In fact, it wouldn't be able to recover its vitality even after 100 years. As for the correct way to consume this fruit, it was quite simple. The person who consumed it would be able to consume a certain amount of the fruit's liquid as long as he possessed a certain level of cultivation. For example, a powerhouse like Shun Xian would be able to consume a single drop of the fruit's liquid. However, a single drop of the fruit's liquid would be able to increase his cultivation by almost 100%. However, if one were to be greedy and eat a little more, then they would die because they wouldn't be able to control the medicinal efficacies. In fact, there wouldn't be the slightest bit of leeway. Therefore, this fruit could be said to be a good item that every expert would yearn for even in their dreams. However, anyone who obtained it would hate and love it at the same time. In fact, it would give them an extreme headache. They would want to eat it, but they wouldn't dare to eat it. Moreover, they wouldn't be able to control themselves. However, they wouldn't be able to resist the temptation of the fruit's liquid. Moreover, their corpses would be incinerated in an instant. Then, they would disappear without a trace. Therefore, everyone who had the opportunity to obtain this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit was a peerless powerhouse. However, the vast majority of them would still explode and die under the tyrannical medicinal efficacies. The ferocity of this fruit's medicinal effects could be imagined. Great poisons were extremely nutritious. But wouldn't it be a situation where only 9 out of 10 people would survive? Jun Moxie had never expected that he would come across this legendary fruit when he had entered the Tian Fa forest on a whim. This was the will of the heavens. However, Jun Moxie's heart was filled with regret at this moment. This was because the fruit had turned white. In other words, this fruit had reached the stage of ripening. At this stage, a large amount of venom was needed to irrigate the fruit. However, the venom in the air had already been absorbed by the fruit. Moreover, the fruit had just turned white. Therefore, it needed to transform into 8 different colors before it would finally ripen. Each of these final transformations required a massive amount of poison. However, the amount of ready-made venom was obviously running out. In other words, this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit that only appeared once every 10 million years was about to meet a tragic end. It would become a holy fruit after it ripened. However, before it ripened, it would become the most venomous object in the 3,000 worlds. What's the use of it? Jun Moxie stamped his feet and beat his chest in regret. My God, if I had known this earlier, I would have used up all my wealth to gather enough venom for this fruit. Oh my God, this is the #1 divine elixir in my eyes. Jun Moxie didn't know that this fruit had another resounding name in the mouth of the Xian Beast Kings of the Tian Fa forest. Tian Fa's sacred fruit. The place that Jun Moxie had inexplicably barged into was the Tian Fa forest land of punishment. It was hard to tell how many poisonous Xian beasts and ordinary beasts lived in the Tian Fa forest for hundreds of years in order to cultivate this sacred fruit. The fruit had slowly turned into a pure white color. Moreover, it was emitting a faint fluorescent light. The skin of the fruit had also turned pink. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit's road to ripening was like the rolling wheel of history. June Moxie almost vomited blood. The most depressing thing in life is to see a heavenly treasure with one's own eyes. But you can only look at it. You can't move it. Not only can you look at it, but you can't move it. Moreover, you have to watch this heavenly treasure turn into a waste. And you can't do anything about it. If the heavens are willing to give me another chance, I would rather use up all my wealth. I would sell everything I have. I would sell my blood and essence to buy enough venom to water this fruit. Oh God, oh Earth, why did you let me see this rotten fruit? It would have been better if I hadn't seen it. Let me die. June Moxie was extremely depressed. He was at his wit's end. Suddenly, the green-clothed girl issued a strange hissing sound. Then a schwa-schwa-schwa sound resounded in the surroundings. A strong fishy smell surged in the air. June Moxie's hair stood on end. He couldn't help but float a little higher in the air. The ground had turned into a sea of venomous creatures in an instant. There were all kinds of venomous snakes. There were big and small ones. There were countless centipedes, scorpions, three-legged toads, four-tailed snakes, as long as June Moxie could think of it. He could recognize all the venomous creatures. In fact, they were lining up in an orderly manner. But this wasn't the end. The sound of flapping wings resounded in the sky. Cranes, poisonous bats, two-headed falcons, seven-colored eagles, all kinds of flying Xian beasts and venomous creatures were densely packed together. June Moxie's heart shook. So, this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit is actually cultivated in the Tian Fa forest. Oh my God, how many poisons must have been accumulated for decades to produce this thing? How much effort must have been expended to produce this thing? They're really daring. However, this made June Moxie feel more at ease. There are so many ferocious creatures helping me. It seems that there won't be any problem with this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit ripening. I'll just sit on a fishing platform. As for looking for Long Crane and Bear Mountain, I'll wait until I'm done with this matter. The decisive battle will take place in 3 days, so I can still make it in time. But who is this green-clothed girl? Is she also a Xian Beast King? Moreover, she's a Xian Beast King? This was simply unimaginable. Long Crane and Bear Mountain look ugly. So, how can this girl be so handsome? I'm shocked. The amount of poison in the air was getting thinner and thinner. The air was about to become clear again. Suddenly, the green-clothed girl whistled, and her body flashed to a distance of 30 meters. Suddenly, a group of 100 flying Xian beasts swooped down from the sky. They opened their mouths as they approached the ground and shot out a thin stream of venom. And it fell on the ground where the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit was located. The venom changed as soon as it touched the ground. Then a colorful poisonous fog rose up in the air. The Xian beasts were visibly dispirited after spitting out the venom. It was obvious that they had suffered a great deal of damage. In fact, it was likely that they wouldn't be able to recover even after several years. After all, this was the essence of their strength that they had accumulated. However, the Xian beasts that had spat out the venom stopped. They flapped their wings and flew away. Then, they squeaked as if they were saying their goodbyes. Then, they disappeared into the boundless night sky. The group of flying Xian beasts swooped down and spat out the essence of the venom. Then, they flew away. Their movements were very orderly and weren't chaotic. However, they were extremely fast. In fact, thousands of Xian beasts had spat out their venom and flown away in a flash. There was still a dense group of them in the sky. However, their numbers didn't seem to be decreasing. Chapter 340. Suddenly, the green-clothed girl's figure flashed, and a long chain flew out of her dark green sleeves. It coiled around one of the 7-colored eagles, and by the time it fell to the ground in front of her, the 7-colored eagle's head had already been fractured, and it had been twisted twice before it died a violent death. June Moxie clearly saw that this 7-colored eagle had dived down and made an action of opening its beak, but it hadn't shot any venom. It was obvious that this eagle was playing a petty trick and hadn't expected that the green-clothed girl would immediately discover it. and had pulled it down before it could even fly. It seems that not only humans are crafty and deceitful, but there are also Xian beasts. Jun Moxie sighed in his heart. The green-clothed girl hastily uttered a few syllables, and her pretty face was filled with rage. As if she was warning something, Jun Moxie clearly saw that whether it was in the sky or on the ground, these unruly poisonous beasts all trembled in unison. She really is a beast king. Who else but a beast king could have such a deterring power? Thousands of venoms were shot on the ground where the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit was located, and a large puddle of venom suddenly appeared in the air. However, as the fruit slowly turned pink, the multicolored venom accumulated below it also decreased, and gradually turned gray, and gradually returned to the color of the ground. In a short period of time, the fruit had completely absorbed the venom. It was obvious that the fruit was undergoing its second transformation, and it was now crystal clear pink. However, at the very top of the fruit, there was a spot that was almost invisible to the naked eye that had turned light blue. It was about to change color for the third time so soon. Jun Moxie was taken aback. The green-clothed girl pursed her lips and whistled, and the sky once again began to dive down in fear of being left behind. This continued for the third time, and the fruit had successfully transformed into a yellow color. However, the tens of thousands of flying Xian beasts in the sky were now gone. Under the green-clothed girl's command, the Xian beasts on the ground began to carefully water the fruit. As the fruit changed color again and again, the green-clothed girl's face became more and more nervous, but also more and more happy. Slowly, this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit that was overflowing with colorful lights finally turned into a light purple gold color. At this moment, the last batch of poisonous beasts on the ground had finally completed their mission and finished spitting their venom. That was close. The green-clothed girl gently patted her chest and cutely stuck out her tongue. That was close. At the same time, these words appeared in Jun Moxie's mind. The two of them, one in the open and the other in the dark, both heaved a long sigh of relief. Under the expectant gazes of Jun Dashao and the green-clothed girl, seconds seemed like years. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit transformed again, gold and purple. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit had finally turned into a purple gold color. This meant that the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit was about to mature. At this moment, the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit blossomed with a dazzling radiance. It was as if the beautiful stars in the night sky had suddenly descended upon the Tian Fa forest. The beauty of this moment was indescribable and indescribable. He was like a proud king, looking down on all living beings with grace and magnanimity. It was only a short moment, but Jun Moxie dared to guarantee that he would never forget this moment for the rest of his life. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit had fully matured in this short moment. Its magnificence had descended upon the world. The green-clothed girl's face revealed an extremely intoxicated expression. She looked at the Tian Fa's number 1 sacred fruit, and her eyes couldn't contain the fanaticism in them. As long as this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit was properly stored in the Xianjie box, he and his brothers would be able to break through the shackles of the peak of level 9 in one fell swoop, and officially step into level 10. This process would be extremely dangerous, and she would have a slim chance of survival. However, she still wanted to try. In fact, she wouldn't regret it even if her body were to explode. This green-clothed girl was one of the Beast Kings of Tian Fa, just like Jun Dashao had guessed. She was the 9th Beast King of Tian Fa, the Qian Sun Serpent Queen. She had been responsible for this arduous task for an entire year, and this 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit had been prepared by the previous Tian Fa Saint King. He had planted tens of thousands of poisonous plants to create this valley of absolute poisons. Then, he had deliberately cultivated all kinds of poisonous Xian beasts, and he had been preparing for it for 350 years. 350 years. The 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit had only needed a year's time from germination to maturity. But the preparation work had taken 350 years. Moreover, it had been done in a place like the Tian Fa forest where the natural conditions were extremely convenient. There were many Xian beasts in Tian Fa, but not many of them were poisonous. In fact, only 1/10 or 2/10 of them were poisonous. But the population was huge. The Xian beasts of the entire Tian Fa forest had been preparing for this fruit for 350 years. Over the past 350 years, tens of millions of mystical beasts had worked hard for this matter for their entire lives. Some mystical beasts didn't even have the chance to witness this magnificent feat in their entire lives. Over and over again, they poured all their venom into this poison storage area. In the end, when they died of old age, they even had to bury their corpses in this piece of land. And this was all for this fruit. The green-clothed girl, Qian Sun's serpent queen, had witnessed this glorious moment. She was extremely excited in her heart. She couldn't help but feel shaken in her heart as she thought about how much the Tian Fa forest had invested in this sacred fruit for the past 350 years. Finally, it's done. She slowly took out a fist-sized, exquisite Xian jade box from her bosom. Then, she opened the lid and waited in silence. She had been very careful with her every move. In fact, it seemed as if she was afraid of disturbing the lifeless sacred fruit. The sacred fruit must wait until it has ripened on its own. Only then can it be considered to have fully ripened. It can't be done even in the blink of an eye. Qian Sun had reminded herself about this point 1,000 times. Don't be impatient. Don't be impatient. Be careful. You must be careful. Finally, the radiance of the purple-golden sacred fruit gradually dimmed down. Then, a burst of rich, but not vulgar, aroma spread out in a leisurely manner. It had a pleasant and simple elegance to it. The king's fragrance. There was no need to doubt the king's fragrance. The sacred fruit gently trembled twice on its branch. It seemed as if it was reluctant to part from its home. Then, its lower branch suddenly withered and turned into a pile of ashes. And the purple-golden fruit that was suspended in the air seemed to have stopped in the void. Then it gracefully fell down. Qian Sun excitedly moved closer to the sacred fruit. She aimed the Xian jade box at the sacred fruit, and it was about to fall into it. Suddenly, Qian Sun's serpent queen's pair of beautiful eyes opened wide. She looked at the scene in front of her in disbelief. There was nothing there. There was nothing there. The sacred fruit of Tian Fa that they had painstakingly prepared for several hundred years had mysteriously disappeared in such an abnormal and abrupt manner. It hadn't been buried in the earth, nor had it ascended to the heavens. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen was the king of Xian beasts of this generation, but it had disappeared without any warning. This was simply inconceivable. What's going on? She was extremely shocked. Then, she felt incomparable resentment and annoyance. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen turned her snow-white wrist, and the Xian jade box disappeared. Then, she jumped up and stood at the top of a tree. She then shouted in a stern voice, "Which scoundrel has come here to behave atrociously? Be tactful and quickly come out. This king wants to see who has dared to come to the land of Tian Fa and steal the fruit of hundreds of years of hard work." Her words echoed throughout the entire Tian Fa forest. It seemed as if the waves of the sea were surging in all directions. Jun Moxie was left speechless in the dark. This Snake King is very fierce. But I won't go out. Don't you think I know that a crazy woman is the most difficult to provoke? How can I go out at this critical juncture and bump into such bad luck? I'm not a fool. The sacred fruit had obviously been taken by the young Master Jun, who had taken it from the Jun family. In fact, only the young Master Jun's yin-yang escape was capable of snatching the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit from the Snake King's hand without anyone noticing. In fact, the young Master Jun's yin-yang escape was the only one capable of snatching the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit in front of the Snake King. This 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit couldn't be stored outside. In fact, the Xian Jade box couldn't be used to preserve it for a long time. However, the Hongjun Pagoda was an exception. It could guarantee that it wouldn't rot for tens of thousands of years if it was placed inside. Jundaxiao had an enormous advantage in terms of utilization. I'm very sorry, little girl. This brother has a lot of use for this thing, so I can only borrow it. Moreover, I won't be able to use it even if I leave it in your hands. That would be a pity. That would be a waste of a heavenly treasure. So, this brother could only do a good deed in order to avoid such a tragedy from happening. So, this brother would have helped you. It's not wrong to say that I'm helping you. That fruit juice looks like a good thing, but it's enough to make you explode if you don't use it properly. So, this brother has taken all. In fact, I've saved your lives. This brother is too kind-hearted, so you don't need to thank me. This is a good thing for you and me. Jun Moxie had labeled himself as a benevolent and righteous philanthropist in his heart. He suddenly felt that he wasn't a thief who had stolen treasures. Instead, he had become a living Buddha who had saved people from suffering. Life is so beautiful. Of course, it's not appropriate for me to reveal myself as a living Buddha for the time being. That's because I'll be torn to shreds by the crazy Snake King if I reveal myself. Come out. Seeing that there was no movement in the surroundings, the person who could snatch away the holy fruit without making a sound was definitely not an ordinary person. Since he had the guts to enter Tian Fa and snatch away Tian Fa's treasures, it was easy to imagine his guts and methods. The Snake King was furious, but she was also somewhat flustered. So she suddenly shouted, and it sounded like a clap of thunder. With the tree she was standing on as the center, all the trees and flowers in the surroundings fell in 4 different directions. Chapter 341. Scoundrel, you dare to come to the Tian Fa forest to steal treasures. You're courting death. Just wait for the Xian beasts of Tian Fa to hunt you down. Seeing that no one was replying, the Snake King finally went berserk. 2 generations of Saint Kings, the hope of the Tian Fa forest for hundreds of years, the hard work of millions of Xian beasts for 350 years, the things that our brothers have been waiting for hundreds of years. Are we going to lose them in our hands? No, I'd rather die than allow it. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen was enraged. Her beautiful eyes suddenly turned a pale green under the night sky. Her green robes fluttered even though there was no wind, and she slowly rose into the air. Suddenly, she raised her head towards the sky and let out an earth-shattering roar. She waved her jade-like arms and unleashed her peak strength without reservation. The peak strength of the Snake King, the target with herself as the center, was an indiscriminate attack within a radius of 100 zhang. All living beings within this area, as long as they existed, would not be able to avoid it. Boom! This indiscriminate attack was like an atomic bomb suddenly exploding in this world. In the pitch-black night, a thick mushroom cloud suddenly rose up and slowly rose up. Such a tyrannical power seemed to distort the pitch-black night, as if a slumbering demon had suddenly opened its eyes. It was as if a mysterious black hole had suddenly appeared in this space, capable of devouring everything. At the same time, she let out a shrill roar due to her fury. The sound waves spread out, and all the Xian beasts, near and far, were shaken. The entire Tian Fa forest immediately moved because of this. The birds and beasts in the surroundings, as long as they could move, quickly rushed over. The entire Tian Fa forest was like a giant that had suddenly awakened from its slumber. In an instant, it erupted with unparalleled vitality and enormous fighting strength. 2 long whistles rang out almost at the same time, as if they were expressing their support for the Snake King. Long Crane and Bear Mountain had already appeared in front of the Qian Sun Serpent Queen before the whistles had even faded away. The 3 Beast Kings stood in a triangular formation, their faces solemn. In the depths of the Tian Fa forest, in a quiet corner where there were few traces of beasts, a human-shaped object was shrouded in a thick white fog. The white fog was so dense that it was almost solid. If a knowledgeable person were to see this, they would definitely be shocked. This was the spirit of heaven and earth move, transform into my use. Wind, tiger, cloud, dragon, all in my heart. Such a profound realm in the entire Xian continent was already known to be at the peak. In the entire continent, including all the hidden clans and the 3 holy lands, there would not be more than 10 people who possessed this level of cultivation. The white mist spun faster and faster, gradually forming a whirlwind. From time to time, it would emit a sharp shio-shio sound. Obviously, this person's cultivation had reached the most critical juncture. At this time, the Qiansun Serpent Queen's anxious and angry shout came from afar. Although the volume was extremely weak by the time it reached here, the contents of the shout were earth-shattering, at least to the person in the thick fog. This news was like a bolt from the blue. The white mist trembled, and the speed of its rotation slowed down. In fact, the fog had even begun to disperse. Then, the Snake King unleashed her full strength and let out a long, mournful, and resentful howl. Everyone could hear the endless despair and sorrow contained in this long howl. Why? Within the white mist, a mouthful of fresh blood was spat out. The ground in front of him was shrouded in the blood mist and turned scarlet in an instant. The white mist, which had almost solidified, became chaotic in an instant and was completely out of shape. Panting sounds could be heard from within the thick white mist. After a long time, an exhausted and powerless voice spoke with infinite sorrow. "This is the will of the heavens. The will of the heavens, forget it." The voice coughed several times and became even weaker. Then it murmured. The Saint King had left behind 4 sentences in the past. Tian Fa is unsought, and the Beast Kings return to their original state. Tian Fa will last for 10,000 years, and only one person will succeed or fail. I've been pondering over the true meaning of these words for hundreds of years, even before I took human form. But I've never been able to understand it. Today, I finally understand the meaning of these words. It turns out that they foretell the end of the Tian Fa forest. This is truly unexpected. Tian Fa is unsought, and something happened to the Qiansun when she was guarding the sacred fruit. The sacred fruit must have been stolen. Otherwise, the Qiansun wouldn't have lost her head out of fear. As for the second sentence, the Beast Kings return to their original state. It must be foretelling the day of our return. Tian Fa will last for 10,000 years, and only one person will succeed or fail. Obviously, it's referring to the person who stole the sacred fruit. The day the sacred fruit was stolen is the day that the Xian experts will gather to attack Tian Fa. My Xian power is surging, and I'm on the verge of a breakthrough. So, I need to do my utmost to calm the Xian power in my body at this critical juncture. So, I need to face Li Ju Tian. I can't afford to be disturbed at this time. But Qiansun's shrill cry has made it clear that the sacred fruit has been stolen. How can I feel at ease when such a precious treasure has been stolen? Today's disturbance has caused my blood to boil, and I will never have the hope of making a breakthrough again. Forget it, the Saint King's teachings. So that's how it is, but I won't let Li Ju Tian off easily. That person spoke in a low voice. His voice gradually became lower and eventually became inaudible. But an intense resentment rose up in his heart. Li Ju Tian, it's all your fault. I will kill you. Ninth sister, what happened? Long Crane hastily asked. Why are you so impatient? The Qiansun Serpent Queen's face was pale. Her lips were trembling, and tears were welling up in her eyes. Her entire body seemed like a weak willow in the wind, and couldn't help but tremble. Finally, 2 lines of tears flowed out of her eyes, and she spoke while choking with sobs. Third brother, fourth brother, the sacred fruit has matured, but the ripe sacred fruit has been stolen. She was the leader of the 10,000 poisons, the Snake King. But she still couldn't bear such a heavy blow. She felt as if she had found someone to rely on when she saw Long Crane and Bear Mountain rushing over. She felt wronged and lost in despair, and started to cry bitterly. The sacred fruit was related to the future of the Tian Fa forest for hundreds of years, or even longer. It was a very important matter. So, they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. And the Snake King was the one who was in charge of this matter. But he had lost the sacred fruit at such a critical juncture when he was surrounded by powerful enemies. Long Crane and Bear Mountain were left dumbstruck. They recovered after a long while and grabbed the Snake King. What? The sacred fruit has been stolen? How is this possible? How is this possible? It's true. Qian Sun didn't have the slightest bit of the graceful bearing of the Snake King at this moment. Her heart turned cold as she thought of the terrible consequences. So, she started to explain the entire matter in a disjointed manner. Is the surrounding defensive formation in good condition? Has there been any news? Long Crane asked in a deep voice. All the defenses are intact. Everything is fine. It can't be any more normal. But, third brother, the sacred fruit, has disappeared without any warning. Qian Sun was so anxious that she started to cry again. Don't worry. The sacred fruit was stolen after it had matured. So our hundreds of years of painstaking efforts weren't wasted. We still have the opportunity to get it back. That person stole the sacred fruit and didn't alert the guards. This explains two things. First, that person's strength is far greater than ours. That's why he could come and go without a trace. We'll admit defeat if that's the case. After all, whoever has the bigger fist is the one in the right. So, what can we say if our skills are inferior? Second, that person didn't have the confidence to sneak away after stealing the sacred fruit. So, he's still nearby and hasn't gone far. Let's carefully search the area again. It's already happened, so there's no point in getting anxious. We have to solve the problem first. No one had expected that at such a critical moment, the one who was able to maintain his composure was actually this Bear King. Moreover, he was able to adopt such a targeted strategy. This was amazing. As the saying goes, a wise man is bound to make a mistake. A fool is bound to make a wise man out of 1,000 considerations. These are truly wise words. Jun Moxie was hiding in the shadows. He couldn't help but praise the Bear King. I didn't think that this stupid bear would be so smart on occasion. It's truly rare. Bear King's words are indeed reasonable. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen and the Crane King's Long Crane's eyes lit up. Long Crane nodded. He didn't say anything else. He raised his head and let out a long whistle. The whistle pierced through the clouds, and a few strange syllables could be heard. All the flying Xian beasts in the Tian Fa forest who had received the news flapped their wings and took to the air. They moved at an extremely slow speed and formed a dense formation. They then flew over from all directions as if they were sweeping through the sky. Bear Mountain's long whistle rang out at the same time. All the Xian beasts on the ground, including those on the trees, also started to gather in an unusually serious manner. The Snake King gave the final order. Then, a tide of poisonous snakes and insects advanced along the ground. With such a three-dimensional encirclement, as long as that person was still here, there was no way he could escape. Even if they were to forcefully squeeze him, he would be squeezed to death. In just a short while, the entire area was surrounded from the sky to the ground by densely packed, three-dimensional metal buckets. It could be said that the water in this space had to first seek permission to flow out of this encirclement. Otherwise, it would be impossible, because all the gaps, including the trees, the ground, and even the inside of the trees, had been blocked by the Xian beasts with their own bodies. The ground was densely packed with poisonous snakes and insects. Even a heavy rain would not be able to wet the ground. How many Xian beasts did they have to gather to reach this level? Jun Moxie's scalp went numb. He felt as if he had fallen into a boundless sea of Xian beasts. There was no end in sight. If he was discovered, he wouldn't even need to make a move. A beast's saliva would be enough to drown him. With such a search, they could even find an embroidery needle in the Tian Fa forest, let alone a living person. At this time, the Tiger King, Lion King, Monkey King, Eagle King, and the youngest Wolf King had also rushed over. Everyone had a serious look on their faces. It was obvious that they had heard about this matter. Following their arrival, More Xian beasts had also gathered in this area. Chapter 342. Today's outbreak. The fourth update has been delivered, and the fifth update, cough cough. I'm working hard. I'm looking for monthly votes. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen looked at them with a guilty expression on her face. She was so ashamed that she couldn't even show her face. Search carefully. Don't let go of a single blade of grass, a single tree, a single leaf, or even an inch of land. We must find that guy. Long Crane raised his hand and issued an order. His eyebrows were raised, and his murderous intention was obvious. We'll each take charge of one direction. Pay attention to each other. Level 9 and above beasts, get ready for battle. He won't be able to escape as long as he's still here. Warning: this man's methods are extremely brilliant. Anyone who discovers him must send out an early warning signal. The Xian Beast Kings complied in unison. Their eyes revealed a somewhat crazed look. The sacred fruit of Tian Fa was something that the Xian Beast Kings had been longing for hundreds of years. So, how could it be gone just like that? Anyone would have gone crazy if they were in his shoes. The Xian Beast Kings were about to start their operation at this moment. Suddenly, an earth-shattering and terrifying coercion suddenly appeared and came crashing down with a loud rumble. It seemed as if the vast sky had suddenly come crashing down from the ninth heaven and was pressing down on the Tian Fa forest. It was pressing down on the heads of the Xian Beast Kings and Xian Beasts. It was so close that they could touch it if they stretched out their hands. This terrifying and vast power was majestic, and it was as dignified and heavy as a mountain. Bear Mountain and the other Xian Beast Kings suddenly felt an irresistible and dejected feeling rise from the bottom of their hearts. They couldn't help but turn pale with fright. The Xian Beast King's performance was still considered good. The Xian Beasts below the Xian Beast King rank all made the same action at this moment. They lay down on the ground, lowered their heads, and didn't dare to move. Only a few hundred level 9 Xian Beasts were barely able to stand, but their legs and bodies were already trembling. It was obvious that they had lost their will to fight. That feeling was like an ordinary mortal suddenly meeting a high and mighty god one day. A god had appeared in front of them in reality. He was a god who controlled his own life in the palm of his hand and could play with it however he wanted. Even if that mortal wasn't an ordinary person, even if he was a king or a general with great power, or if his strength was extraordinary, or if he was powerful enough to control the life and death of many people, at this moment, no matter how extraordinary he usually was, he was still a mortal in front of the gods. This was the difference between a mortal and a god, a difference in essence that couldn't be resisted. At the same time, the 8 kings of the mystical beast had the same thought. If the holy fruits were taken by this person, then even if they used all the strength of the Tian Fa forest, they would never be able to get them back. Although he did not hear anything, although he did not see anyone. However, all the Xian Beast Kings were already thinking the same thing. His aura was shocking, and he was like a god. If one dared to make an enemy of him, they would only be courting death. The 8 Beast Kings raised their heads at the same time and looked at the sky. Only they had the courage to raise their heads. Over there was a black figure. Even his face and feet were covered by a black cloth, but he was floating in the night sky as steadily as a mountain. Although it was nighttime, and that person was also dressed in black. However, in the hearts of the crowd, it was as if the pitch-black night had suddenly transformed into a blinding radiance that was as bright as the sun. It was equally dazzling and equally impossible to look at. Only Bear Mountain and Long Crane felt a sense of familiarity in their hearts. "Is it him? I was the one who took that fruit," the man said slowly with an old and clear voice. Looking down from above, even his voice was filled with an inviolable authority. From his tone, one could hear the meaning. "This world is mine. I will take whatever I want." Very normal. Fortunately, this person explained, that's because it would be a waste to leave such a heavenly treasure in your hands. He bemoaned the state of the universe and pitied the fate of mankind and sighed. Then, he said in a leisurely manner, "It would have been fine if it were a waste. But None of you 8 Beast Kings have the cultivation to safely consume this holy fruit. I'm afraid that everyone who consumes this fruit will explode and die in a matter of minutes if I were to give it to you. There won't be any exceptions." He snorted in an extremely dignified manner. "You're delusional enough to think of taking this holy fruit with your lowly cultivation. You're simply courting death. Why don't you take a knife and slit your own throat if you're tired of living? Is it worthwhile to waste such a divine object?" The 8 Beast Kings looked at each other in dismay as they heard these words. Some of them were wild and difficult to tame. They knew that the opposite party's strength was unfathomable, and they couldn't match him. But how could they believe his one-sided words when they thought of the benefits of the holy fruit? They cried out in a strange manner and rushed forward, especially the Qian Sun Serpent Queen. Her beautiful eyes seemed as if they were about to spit fire. She clenched her hands into fists and was about to strike. "Senior, is this Senior Feng whom this junior met in Tianxiang?" Long Crane suddenly waved his hand to stop his brothers and sisters from getting restless. Then he asked in an unusually cautious tone. He felt that this person was very familiar, but he felt that this person was much more powerful than the mysterious expert who had defeated the two of them in Tianxiang. Bear Mountain also had the same apprehension. Therefore, the two of them couldn't believe it, even though they had recognized him. Could it be that this mysterious expert has made such a huge breakthrough in these 2 short months? This speed of advancement is too terrifying. Isn't it too incredible? However, they didn't know that Jun Moxie's cultivation had been very shallow back in Tianxiang. So, he had only been able to activate a small part of the Hongjun Pagoda's aura. But Jun Daxiao's cultivation had made a huge leap. So, he had obtained greater authority. So, he hadn't hesitated to use all of his spiritual power to activate the Hongjun Pagoda's greatest effect in order to achieve an overwhelming deterrent effect. This difference couldn't be said to be as great as the difference between heaven and earth. But it was like the difference between heaven and earth. So, how could they be compared? And the reason why Jun Moxie had revealed himself was because of his predetermined plan. Secondly, he couldn't bear to see these King Xian beasts in such a dazed state. After all, this thing had been cultivated for hundreds of years. It was unknown how much effort had been expended and how many generations had passed in order to successfully grow it. Would it be appropriate for me to take it? Of course, Jun Moxie would only take a small portion or even half of it, but he would have a clear conscience. As for the other half, no matter how despicable Jun Moxie was, he couldn't bear to let these people's hundreds of years of hard work and the efforts of millions of Xian beasts go to waste. In Jun Moxie's heart, the so-called human beings were far from being as amiable as these straightforward Xian beasts. So, he would have helped them if he had the ability to do so. Do I have to look on helplessly as these Xian Beast Kings explode and die? It would be a pity if these Xian Beast Kings were to die, whether it was for my future development, plans, or other purposes. Even if I can't make use of them, it would be good to form a good relationship with them. One must know that such experts can only be found by chance, but they can't be sought after. I still need a suitable method to explain this matter. My disguise is the best way to handle this. Long Crane, Bear Mountain, haha. You two have surprised this old man. Jun Mo sighed like an old man. This old man wasn't willing to lower himself to deal with the Shui Han Manor's trash. So, I left it to the two of you. Haha. It was such a simple matter. But the two of you messed around and turned it into a Xian beast tide. And the most outrageous thing is that you couldn't solve it. Instead, half of the world's Xian experts have come here. This matter has nothing to do with this old man. So let happen. But this old man is very curious. When did Tian Fa's power become so weak? This old man remembers that we had agreed on a 1-month deadline, right? Since when did 1 month become 70 days in the Tian Fa forest? It's really you. Long Crane and Bear Mountain heaved a sigh of relief after confirming his identity. But they were also flushed with shame. In fact, their faces were burning with shame. In fact, they wish that they could dig a hole and hide in it. You shouldn't hit someone's face if you want to beat them. But you expose them in public. This is too shameful. This senior doesn't give us any face. As for the reason for their sigh of relief, it's very simple. How could such a peerless expert be a petty thief who steals things from other people? Presumably, there must be a deeper meaning behind it that we don't understand. In any case, we definitely won't be at a disadvantage. How could they know that practically every time this peerless expert in their eyes encountered something like this, he would try his best to swindle and deceive others, and he would carry out a shameless, untrustworthy, and dishonorable policy, smashing bricks, smashing sticks, stealing sheep, and so on and so forth. He'd long since become exceedingly skilled in doing these things, and he'd done them with ease. However, they had guessed correctly this time. It was rare for Jun Dashao to find his conscience. I'm ashamed, senior. But you can't blame us brothers for this matter. The Shuehun manor is too shameless. Li Ju Tian has never been a good person. They've united the entire continent's Xian experts to deal with us. We had no other choice. So, we had no choice but to carry out the Xian beast invasion, even if it would cost us a great deal of strength. After all, we had an agreement with you. So, we had to complete it, even if it would be very difficult. We've done our utmost to carry out the task that you've entrusted us with. Long Crane rolled his eyes and hastily explained. The meaning behind his words was, we've done this for you, so you can't just ignore it. You can't stand on the side of the human race and deal with us. Not only can you not deal with us, but we've done so much for you. So, you're a peerless expert. So, you should at least show some appreciation. We've suffered a great deal of damage. Sigh. The reason why I'd asked you to handle this matter was because wouldn't I be giving Li Ju Tian too much face if I were personally deal with the Shuehun manor? Wouldn't that be bullying them? Don't tell me that you two still don't understand this. If I had known that you wouldn't be able to settle this matter after such a big battle, I would have. Chapter 343. Today's eruption. I'm finally done. I'm exhausted, and I'm asking for monthly votes. Yes. What is your status? You'll be giving Li Ju Tian too much face if you personally deal with him. You'll be bullying them. Li Ju Tian is nothing in front of you, Why can't you personally deal with him? It would be beneath your status if you did. Bear Mountain Mountain's thick lips moved up and down as he spoke these words fluently. He had thought that the matter hadn't been completed after such a long time. Moreover, this mysterious and unrivaled expert had personally come to Tian Fa. So, the original agreement must have been nullified. However, he hadn't expected that this unrivaled expert's tone would reveal that he wanted to continue. He couldn't help but be overjoyed at the unexpected good news. This mysterious expert is willing to give me an opportunity. So, there's hope for advancement. Wow, Li Ju Tian is the second most powerful man in the world. However, he's not even worth a far in front of Bear Mountain. This is a bit too much. So? Jun Moxie muttered to himself. So, we'll naturally do it for you. Long Crane was afraid that Bear Mountain wouldn't be able to respond to his words. So, he hastily followed up. He patted his chest and volunteered himself. If that's the case, that's fine, alas. Jun Moxie sighed. He was somewhat dispirited. Then, he spoke in a lonely and desolate voice. This old man doesn't have the slightest interest in dealing with a junior like Li Ju Tian. You don't have the slightest interest? That's great. You can rest assured. Leave it to us brothers. We'll certainly satisfy you. Bear Mountain clapped his hands, and a crisp sound rang out. Long Crane thought in his heart, Li Ju Tian is a junior. My goodness. This man's tone is even bigger than it was back in Tian Xiang. This, senior, it doesn't matter if you're interested or not. But that sacred fruit belongs to my Tian Fa. Qian Sun Serpent Queen was somewhat anxious. She took a step forward and said, This junior was ordered to guard the sacred fruit, but it was lost in my hands. This is Junior's responsibility. I hope Senior can return the sacred fruit. Junior will be extremely grateful and will remember Senior's great kindness. Qian Sun Serpent Queen's words were neither servile nor overbearing. She had a sense of propriety, which made Jun Moxie admire her a little. However, with Jun Dashao's temper, once good things were in his hands, how could he spit them out? Oh, this fresh and tender little girl really knows how to talk, and her words are sharp enough. However, the one who scolded me just now was you little girl, right? Jun Moxie's voice deepened as he said the last sentence, and a boundless and terrifying pressure pressed down on her. The first step was to intimidate them. It's better if she's scared. But there's still the second step if she's not scared. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on her body. She groaned and retreated 3 steps. She then managed to stand firm, but her complexion had already turned somewhat pale. However, she stubbornly raised her head. This junior has a duty. I would rather die than discard it. Senior can punish Qian Sun if she's ignorant and offensive. But I hope that Senior can punish Qian Sun and return the sacred fruit. Long Crane became anxious. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen's words would undoubtedly offend a master in front of him. Retrieving the sacred fruit was a small matter. Moreover, the master might get angry in case he got angry. In fact, he could easily take Qian Sun's life. So, he couldn't help but hastily say, "Senior, please calm down. This little sister is young and ignorant. She was impatient to get the sacred fruit and offended you. I hope that Senior can be magnanimous and forgive me. What Tian Fa's sacred fruit? How can you randomly name it?" Jun Moxie reprimanded. "This fruit is obviously called the 1,000 Evils and 10,000 Poisons fruit. Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. Little girl, look at you 8 little beasts. Your cultivation isn't weak, right? But I'm telling you that none of you will be able to withstand a single drop of the 1,000 Evils and 10,000 Poisons fruit juice. No matter who swallowed it, they would die on the spot." This old man had lowered his status to help them out of goodwill. So, why can't you tell good from bad? Don't tell me that this old man doesn't have the magnanimity to bicker with a little girl like you. The second step was to convince her. If I can't convince her, our bodies will explode and we'll die. That's our fate. Qian Sun's Serpent Queen was very stubborn. She opened her tender white hands and seemed very persistent. She didn't notice that Long Crane and Bear Mountain were giving her meaningful glances. How could the third crane and the fourth bear not be anxious? The function of the sacred fruit of heaven punishment was nothing more than to help the beast kings increase their own strength. In addition, the side effects of the sacred fruit of heaven punishment were abnormally terrifying. If they could find a better alternative, it would naturally be the best. However, the mysterious expert before them was a great expert who possessed the means of creation. Therefore, it would have been a profitable business if they could have made friends with this Tian Fa's sacred fruit. However, Qian Sun's stubbornness had undoubtedly ruined this good business. Moreover, the sacred fruit had already fallen into the hands of this man, and this man had clearly snatched it away. So what could you do? You could have just watched him swagger away. Swagger away would have been fine, but he would have killed all of us if he got upset. Then, how could you have cried injustice in that case? Forget it. This little girl's words are reasonable. This old man had taken the fruit with the intention of saving lives. But I've taken it from you, so it's indeed unreasonable. But it would have been a reckless waste of natural resources if I had allowed you to eat it. Moreover, it would have been inevitable that you would have lost your lives in vain. So, it's fate that we've met. This old man wants to use this fruit to refine medicine. So, I might as well be a good person. Jun Moxie had a pained look on his face. In fact, it seemed as if he had cut out a few kilograms of flesh from his body. This old man wants this 1,000 Evils and 10,000 Poisons fruit to refine some pills. And you need this fruit to break through your bottleneck. So, this old man will give you some pills after I refine the pills. How about it? Isn't this good enough? The 8 of you are obviously going to die from overeating. So, what else do you have to say for yourself? The third and final step was to make an exchange of conditions. Jun Dashao would have exhausted his limited abilities if he didn't agree. So, he would have had no choice but to turn invisible and leave even though he was quite despicable. The eyes of the Beast Kings lit up as soon as he said this. Even the Qian Sun Serpent Queen hesitated. The third crane and the fourth bear stared at the Qian Sun. They thought, little sister Qian Sun, quickly agree. The Beast Kings were well aware that taking the sacred fruit would cause their bodies to explode. So, it would be a lie if they said that they weren't afraid or apprehensive. However, they had to take the risk in order to obtain higher strength and a longer lifespan. But there was a chance that they could safely advance to the next level. So, who wouldn't be tempted? The Beast Kings wouldn't have believed these words if they had been spoken by an ordinary person. Who are you trying to deceive? This kind of nonsense can only deceive ghosts. You want to deceive us? Dream on. But who is this person in front of us? He's an unrivaled expert. His cultivation is much higher than that of the eldest brother. Moreover, the third and fourth brother have already confirmed that he can help Qian beasts advance easily. Even if the testimonies of the third crane and the fourth bear were relatively weak, there was still another true and shocking example in front of them. The unexpected 8th-grade iron-winged leopard cub. This indelible fact had proved that the man in front of them truly possessed an unfathomable and mysterious means. The eyes of the other Beast Kings lit up for a moment. The Qian Sun Serpent Queen was in a dilemma. Why are you wasting time? Do you still not trust Long Crane and Bear Mountain if you still have doubts? Let them vouch for this old man. They know this old man very well. So how about this? Hee, you're indulging in flights of fancy, little girl. Third crane and fourth bear, are you willing to vouch for this old man? I'll give you a share when the time comes. Jun Moxie acted like an old man as he gave the order. Jun Dashao had seen the third crane and the fourth bear strenuously staring at each other. So, he had looked for the two of them. Yes, we'll vouch for it. Don't you trust us, ninth sister? Bear Mountain opened his thick lips and took charge. Long Crane had always been cautious. So, he couldn't help but feel that something was wrong when he heard the mysterious expert take the initiative to speak. But he didn't open his mouth in the end. After all, some hope was better than none. Then, how long will it take for you to take out the spirit pill, if that's the case? The Qian Sun Serpent Queen hesitated for a moment. She felt extremely embarrassed. So, she bit her plump red lips and asked hesitantly, "Damn it, what a little demon. Even biting her lips is so beautiful." Jun Dashao groaned in his stomach. His heart was like a monkey running amok. So he hastily steadied his mind and stretched out 3 fingers. 3 years at the latest. Then, I'll be able to gather the necessary ingredients to refine the spirit pill. He suddenly remembered something after he said this. So, he fumbled around on his body and pulled out a jade bottle. This old man won't take advantage of you juniors. So, I'll fulfill your wish. There are a few pills in this bottle. This old man had been practicing for fun. So, I didn't use any good ingredients. But taking 1 pill will increase your strength by 10 years. Alas, the ingredients are really hard to find. Otherwise, the effects would have been more than this. He took out 8 pills and threw them into the air. No more, no less. 1 for each person. 1 for each beast. The Lion King, Monkey King, Tiger King, and the others held the small pills in their hands. They couldn't decide whether they should take them or not. Bear Mountain didn't have any misgivings. He raised his head and swallowed the pill. Then, he started to circulate his qi. Suddenly, he cried out in surprise, "Huh." After completing the 3rd revolution, he had already absorbed the medicinal energy. As a supreme level expert himself, his physical body was far stronger than that of a human's. Naturally, he could easily verify the results. He cried out in surprise and joy. It really can increase one's cultivation. At the very least, it would take 10 years of cultivation. This is a miracle medicine. Long Crane also couldn't hold back his excitement. So he also swallowed the pill. So, he was naturally pleasantly surprised. The other Beast Kings also looked at each other and swallowed the pill. Then, they suddenly stood up straight, and their 16 eyes looked at Jun Moxie. Their gazes were blazing. Oh my God, there's such a miraculous pill in this world that can increase one's strength. It's real. Oh my God, there aren't any side effects. The eyes of the Beast Kings became even more fervent. Master. They were now convinced that this mysterious and unrivaled man could use the sacred fruit to refine a pill that could help them advance to the next level. What did that senior say a moment ago? He had only practiced it for fun, and he hadn't used any good materials. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been this effective. Oh my God, I didn't use any good materials, and it has such an effect. What kind of pill would I have made if I had used some good materials? The truth is right in front of us. So, why are we still doubting it? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't need to go through life and death situations to advance to the next level. What a wonderful thing. I can't even dream of this. Jun Moxie's black robe fluttered in the air. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked like an otherworldly expert. Umph. Those who believe in me will have eternal life. Chapter 344. 2 chapters in 1. 2 chapters delivered. Jun Moxie heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Damn it, can I really reach the 6th or 7th level within 3 years? Just now, this brother bit the bullet and said 3 years. By the way, there's another reason I'm here. I almost forgot. Jun Moxie clasped his hands behind his back and confidently said, I heard you want to duel with the people of South Sky City? Is that true? Yes. The duel will be held the day after tomorrow. Long Crane's attitude became even more respectful. The Jun family and the Dugu family of the Tianxiang City have some relations with this old man. So, this old man doesn't wish for these 2 families to be harmed. I hope everyone can deal with it according to the circumstances. Consider it as giving this old man face. Jun Moxie said in a tone that sounded modest at first glance like a request, but upon closer inspection, it sounded like a direct order. That's easy. Long Crane chuckled and said, We have no intention of dealing with these 2 families. He thought for a moment, and then took out a small jade bottle. Let's do it this way. Sprinkle some of this powder on the people of these 2 families on the day of the decisive battle. Our brothers won't attack them, and we won't retaliate even if they beat us up. In that case, thank you very much. Jun Mo, Xie smiled faintly. He didn't show any relief, but he didn't seem particularly happy either. In fact, he seemed very calm and indifferent. The Xian Beast Kings only saw a blur before their eyes, and the man in the sky disappeared without a trace. He then reappeared in his original position, and the jade bottle in Long Crane's hand also disappeared at the same time. What a miraculous movement technique! The other Beast Kings were even more impressed. After settling these 2 matters, Jun Moxie was done showing off and was finally going home. Before he left, he naturally said a few polite words. He was afraid that the Beast Kings would go back on their words and quickly slipped away, but he hadn't gone far when he realized that the decisive battle was only the day after tomorrow. It was still too early. This Tian Fa forest was unexpectedly able to produce 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit. This was really surprising. He wondered if there were any other natural treasures. Why didn't this young master think of asking for more just now? I'm so conflicted. As he thought of this, he felt an unbearable itch in his heart. He turned around and activated the yin-yang escape. With a whoosh, he leaped into the depths of the Tian Fa forest. In the forest, 3rd brother, 4th brother, quickly tell us, who is that expert? Why do you 2 seem to be very familiar with them? With this guarantee, you actually guaranteed our Tian Fa forest number 1 treasure without even blinking. The Qiansun Serpent Queen said doubtfully, although this person's strength is indeed unfathomable and far beyond our reach. Why do I feel like you guys are eager to see him? Don't tell me you're so sure of him? This is the crystallization of Tian Fa's 300 years of painstaking efforts. Everyone looked at Long Crane and Big Bear as soon as they heard this. In fact, they were also very confused. The young Master Jun had disguised himself as a powerful expert and had acted as if he was the most powerful person in the world. But this kind of intimidation didn't apply to the Tian Fa forest. In fact, The young Master June wouldn't have been able to make them retreat out of fear, even if he had killed all the Beast Kings if he hadn't made contact with Long Crane and Big Bear. Long Crane and Bear Mountain were very proud of themselves. After all, these brothers and sisters wouldn't have any problems advancing if they could form a good relationship with such an unrivaled expert. And the two of them would have become heroes of the Tian Fa forest in that case. They would all advance together. Moreover, there wouldn't be any danger in the process. In fact, there would be a bright future ahead. Such a good thing hadn't happened in the Tian Fa forest for tens of thousands of years. This was definitely a great achievement that would create new history. The two of them were about to proudly show off their good character. How could they not have a good character when they had such a wide network of friends? But they suddenly shut their mouths. That's right. Who was this mysterious expert? The two of them only knew the name Feng Qingyang. They didn't even know if this name was real or fake. So who was he? Where did he live? What was his character like? The two of them didn't know anything about these things. The two Beast Kings discovered a serious problem as they thought of this. Oh my God, the two of us actually made such an important guarantee for a person we don't even know anything about. And we even did it willingly. What the hell is this? If we don't get any news about him in 3 years, then it'll be a small matter for us to lose face. But where are we supposed to go to get that divine pill? Will we be able to find him? Even if eating the Tian Fa sacred fruit is risky, and there's always the possibility of exploding one's body, but it's still a way to increase one's strength. There's no danger, and it's very attractive. But it's like a big cake drawn on a paper. It's meaningless if we can't eat it, and we won't be able to find a place to talk about it if we fail. The two Beast Kings finally understood everything. They didn't know what to say. They looked at each other in dismay and didn't know what to do. They were completely at a loss. The rest of the Beast Kings were waiting for an answer. They didn't want to give it to them in vain. They saw that the two of them had a strange expression on their faces. So they nervously asked, "Third brother, fourth brother, how is it? Why don't you two tell us? We're brothers and sisters. Why do you still need to keep a secret? How is it? Mother asterisk her. You ask us. Who do we ask? F asterisk CK. We won't be sold, will we?" The two of them were in a state of confusion. Long Crane felt gloomy in his heart. He couldn't help but roll his eyes. What's there to be worried about? He's a peerless expert with an unrivaled cultivation. Perhaps he's the strongest expert since ancient times. So, why would he degrade himself to cheat us of a mere Tian Fa's sacred fruit? Let's not talk about anything else. But can we resist, even if that senior tries to rob us? Everyone, be patient. You'll benefit a lot from this. What's the hurry? Didn't that senior promise us 3 years? 3 years is like a nap to us. But look at you shaking your heads and wagging your tails in a panic. Where's the demeanor of a king? Everyone disperse. We'll have a big battle in 2 days. Bear Mountain hastily interjected. That's right. Look at your bear-like appearance. I feel a pain in my balls. Get lost. Do what you need to do. Take care of your spirits. You'll be able to knock down a few enemies later. The other Beast Kings were unhappy. They were cursing in their hearts. You're the only one who's worthy of being called a bear. You can't blame us, right? But they had no choice but to disperse when they saw the serious faces of their two elder brothers. They had no choice but to disperse even if they had some doubts. In fact, everyone had a beautiful hope in their hearts. We'll safely advance after 3 years. Long Crane had said that 3 years was a very short period of time for these Xian Beast Kings. They weren't immortal in comparison to the Xian Beasts, but their lifespan was several times longer than that of an ordinary human. In fact, it could even be dozens of times longer than that of an ordinary human. They could safely advance in 3 years, and perhaps even live a longer life. This was a very worthwhile transaction. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that this was a meat pie that had fallen from the sky. Moreover, they had some doubts. But that mysterious expert was still very trustworthy. Not to mention that he had an unfathomable and valiant cultivation. But they had just taken that miraculous pill, and they had gained 10 years of pure strength out of thin air. So They hadn't even heard of such a miraculous thing, let alone seen or eaten it. This miraculous pill could increase one's strength by 10 years after taking it. And that was already a heaven-defying thing. What else was impossible? Of course, Long Crane, Bear Mountain, and the others' worries were completely unnecessary. After all, June Moxie had no intention of reneging on this transaction. To him, this was a good thing that could only be chanced upon and not sought. How many favors would they owe me if I let these Xian Beast Kings safely advance? Wouldn't this be tantamount to getting a bunch of free thugs? And all of them would be at the great master level. This feels great. Jun Dashao's heart was filled with joy after he had obtained the treasure in his hands. And he was pleasantly surprised all the way. The Tian Fa forest is a real treasure land. How can I have everything? This makes me very excited. I couldn't find anything in Tianxiang City. I couldn't even find a variety of medicinal ingredients, even if I tried. But I can find them here. It doesn't matter how rare the medicinal ingredients are. You can find them as long as you can find them in the great wilderness. And you can find as many as you want. Moreover, it seems that no one has ever collected them before. This feels great. This feels great. There were even many top-grade medicinal herbs that could be used to supplement the consumption of level 9 Xian pills, such as the tricolored lingji, the heavenly stargrass, and the 9 Xian root. These 3 rare spirit herbs could only be found by luck, but not by searching for them. But there was actually a heavenly stargrass here. This is second only to the 1,000 evils and 10,000 poisons fruit. This is a pleasant surprise. It's like picking up a meat pie that fell from the sky. Jun Moxie's heart warmed up. He continued to maintain the yin-yang escape as he advanced deeper into the forest. He had collected all the rare medicinal ingredients into the Hongjun Pagoda along the way. However, he suddenly felt that something wasn't right after he had advanced for an unknown distance. That was because there weren't any traces of Xian beasts in this area. There weren't even any birds in the sky. The ground was so clean that not even an ant could be seen. And the most outrageous thing was that there weren't even any earthworms or dragons in the ground. It was too quiet. Could it be that this place is actually another land of 10,000 poisons? Jun Moxie looked at the surrounding flora and fauna. Everything was lush and verdant. He activated the art of unlocking heaven's fortune and stretched his head out to take a deep breath of the fresh air. It didn't seem poisonous at all. Moreover, the spiritual qi in this place was incomparably abundant. This is so full of vitality. But why aren't there any signs of animals staying here? This is too strange. Jun Moxie cautiously moved forward. But the more he went in, the more luxuriant the flora and fauna became. But there was still no movement in the surroundings. The air was also becoming more and more fresh and pleasant. Jun Moxie finally removed the yin-yang escape and suddenly appeared in the forest. He took a deep breath and looked around. It was already late autumn, but this place didn't seem to be affected by the season. It was still lush and green. Amidst the silence, Jun Mo Xie suddenly had a subtle feeling of being isolated from the world. It was as if, after coming to this world, his heart had become restless. But in the blink of an eye, he had completely calmed down. In this kind of quiet environment, it was easy to evoke memories of the past in one's heart. It was also very easy to have a wonderful feeling that even one's soul was being cleansed. As Jun Moxie stepped on the soft grass, there was a soft rustling sound. It was as if he was walking in his own dream. For a moment, his mind was filled with thousands of things, big and small. It was as if his mind was empty, as if he was sleepwalking. Jun Mo Xie had unwittingly arrived under a flowering tree in a state of unconsciousness. Then he slowly sat down. His movements were so gentle. It was as if he was afraid that if he made the slightest sound, it would break the tranquility in the depths of his soul. The young man sat quietly, one hand supporting his chin. His eyes looked in front of him in a daze. It was as if he didn't see anything. Like clouds, like smoke, like a dream, like an illusion, like an intoxicated person. For a long time, The great evil aura that had permeated his bones and soul seemed to be pulled out from his body bit by bit. This was an extremely mysterious feeling. In a daze, there was a faint sense of transcendence, as if he had put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the spot, on the flowering tree. A broken flower floated down slowly and silently landed on his shoulder. He didn't seem to notice it at all. A gentle breeze blew over, and the hair on his forehead gently floated up, swaying in front of his eyes. It seemed like a few centuries had passed, but also seemed like only a short moment had passed. Falling flowers stand alone. The light rain and swallows fly together. Jun Moxie slightly sighed. He raised his head, slightly narrowed his eyes, and looked at the picturesque, fairy-like, beautiful scenery in front of him. He took a deep breath. It's so beautiful. Even an executioner like me, whose body is soaked in blood to the bone, actually has a feeling of seclusion and transcendence. Jun Mo Xie looked at the surrounding scenery with great reluctance. His soul seemed to have returned to his body as he laughed lightly and said in a self-mocking manner, "If one day I can live in seclusion here, it would be one of the greatest joys of my life. It's just that this kind of elegant paradise is really not suitable for an assassin." His figure floated up, and as if his feet didn't touch the ground, he gently swept past the flowers and grass. Jun Moxie flew with the wind and suddenly plunged into this quiet and secluded place. In front of him was a dense thicket of trees with almost no gaps between them. Any random tree was probably hundreds or even thousands of years old. They were squeezed together, and there were even two trees that had no gaps between them. They had actually grown together and extended outwards like a fence enclosing a large area. In this kind of place, why does it look like there are people living here? Jun Moxie's curiosity was aroused. Out of the vigilance of an assassin, he immediately entered the state of yin-yang escape and lightly floated in. My God, what a beautiful place. In the middle of the encirclement of trees, there was actually a small valley. Although there were no buildings built by people, all of this seemed to be natural, and it made people's hearts sway. In the midst of the flowers and grass, a faint fragrance entered his nose. Jun Moxie couldn't help but poke his head out and took a deep breath. He felt comfortable all over and couldn't help but feel refreshed. He followed the fragrance and didn't go far. Suddenly, his eyes widened, and he couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Fortunately, he had enough time to cover his mouth. There was a thick tree in front of him, and there were a few broken stones scattered around. Among the broken stones, there were three colors of light: gold, red, and white. Jun Moxie sucked in a mouthful of cold air. The tricolor Ganoderma, which was regarded as a precious treasure, grew here like cabbages. There were 7 or 8 of them, and in the corner, there were also several rare herbs that were hard to find. Am I dreaming? Jun Moxie was surrounded by a great sense of happiness. He had always coveted the cleansing marrow pill that he would be able to refine when he ascended to the 3rd level. He might not even be able to find 10 ingredients in Tianxiang City, but he had managed to gather all of them in just one night in the Tian Fa forest. Moreover, he had even plundered a lot of the more advanced herbs. Jun Moxie had originally been feeling melancholy. I'm about to make a breakthrough, but I can't find any herbs that can help my cultivation. What a headache. I didn't expect that coming to the Tian Fa forest would be like plucking cabbages from my own field. I had come all the way here in a straight line, and somehow managed to find all of them. It's really a pleasant surprise. I don't know how many more precious resources will be unearthed in this vast Tian Fa forest. These will be the source of tyrannical strength in the future. Jun Moxie was ecstatic, and quickly plucked more than half of the herbs. When he reached the last 2, Jun Moxie hesitated for a moment and finally decided to keep them, drain the pond to catch the fish, and burn the forest to hunt. If it was a human, Jun Moxie wouldn't hesitate to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots. However, Jun Moxie still knew that he had to be careful when it came to these treasures of heaven and earth. If it was excessively harvested, it wouldn't be beautiful. Jun Moxie looked around, and was surprised to find that this hidden valley in the embrace of the trees was like a natural cultivation base for elixirs. All kinds of precious herbs could be seen everywhere in the seemingly inconspicuous bushes. Could it be that there's a so-called source of spiritual energy here? June Moxie muttered in his heart and began to search more carefully. After bypassing a few big trees, a cave suddenly appeared in front of him. The entrance of the cave was covered by a few big trees, and he believed that no matter how big the wind and rain was, it wouldn't affect anything inside. Therefore, the inside of the cave must be abnormally dry. At the same time, Jun Dashao faintly heard a rather subtle rustling sound coming from inside the cave. Could it be that there's someone living inside? But my divine sense didn't detect any abnormality at all just now. Jun Moxie immediately became vigilant and immediately entered the state of yin-yang escape, floating and invisibly without a trace. After entering the cave and taking a closer look, Jun Moxie directly opened his mouth into an O shape. What was presented in front of him was a scene that he would never have imagined. He originally thought that this place was so hidden and no birds or beasts came here, that the one living here must be a big boss. At the very least, it must be a humanoid beast king. Only then could it be worthy of this environment. But in fact, what appeared in front of him was only a bare stone room, without even a bed. It was a veritable for bare walls. Only on the ground in the middle of the stone room, there was a large black robe, thrown on the ground like throwing rubbish. According to Jun Moxie's visual observation, this could no longer be called a black robe, but it should be called a black cloth, and it had to be measured in terms of cloth. He believed that even an elephant, wearing such a black robe, should look very slim. As for a human, it could totally be used as a blanket, and even after it was folded. There were faint bloodstains on the black robe, and it seemed like it was picked up from somewhere. On the black robe, there was a small, white animal lying feebly. At first glance, Jun Moxie almost thought that it was Little White. However, upon closer inspection, this little animal looked completely different from Whitey. The little animal in front of him was only the size of half a human's arm, and its whole body was snow white, without a single strand of hair. Moreover, this kind of white was the kind of white that made people feel very comfortable when they saw it. It was the kind of white that was very holy and elegant. It looked at Jun Moxie, who suddenly appeared in front of it with its last breath. There wasn't the slightest bit of fear in its eyes. It only rolled its eyes and looked at him. Its eyes were calm and clear, and even contained an indescribable sense of pride. Then, it lowered its head as if it had accepted its fate. It was so quiet and motionless, as if it no longer cared about life or death. But that small body of its helplessly curled up on the black robe gave people a strong feeling of tenderness. Although Jun Moxie had never discriminated against wild beasts, with his character, he would never like small things like pets. Otherwise, he would not have disliked Little White so much. But when he saw this little animal, his heart suddenly surged with a strong feeling of wanting to protect it. This feeling was really wonderful. "Poor little thing, are you hurt?" Jun Moxie said in a rare, gentle tone and squatted down. He looked at the little animal in front of him. The little animal indifferently lowered its head and did not pay any attention to him. It was unknown whether it did not understand Jun Dashao's words, or it simply did not want to pay attention to him. Looking at its lazy and adorable appearance, Jun Moxie suddenly remembered that one of the reasons why Duga Xiaoi had come to Tian Nan this time was to hunt a snow god marten, and then use its fur to make a waist protector for her grandfather. Looking at this little animal in front of him, it really looked like the legendary high-level Xian beast that moved like lightning, the snow god marten. However, when Jun Moxie carefully looked for a while, he did not find the slightest trace of Xian beast's aura. Naturally, it could not be an 8th-level Xian beast, the snow god marten. In fact, it could not even be a Xian beast. Could it be that this is just an ordinary little marten? But why is it so beautiful? Jun Moxie slowly reached out his hand and gently touched it. The little animal still lowered its head and did not move, but its entire body stiffened. So, This little thing also knows fear. June Moxie laughed. Don't be afraid. Big Brother is a good person, a very good person. Come, let me first take a look at your injuries. Interesting little thing. Big Brother will give you something good to eat later. Good person? This was the first time in both of June Moxie's lives that he had said that he was a good person, even though he was really a good person in a certain White's eyes. Holding the little animal in his arms, June Moxie activated the art of unlocking Heaven's fortune and silently examined it. However, he hadn't noticed that the little creature's ears had suddenly pricked up when he had picked it up. Its eyelids had fiercely rolled and shot out an ominous glint. But then, it had smelled the wondrous scent of heaven-earth spiritual chi on June Moxie's body. So, it was startled for a moment, and its eyes revealed an extremely confused expression. Then it slowly closed its eyes. Chapter 345. June Moxie clicked his tongue and said, I don't know how such a small thing like you got injured to this extent. TSK, it's really strange. Why are the meridians in your body like the bark of a 100-year-old pine tree? They're so brittle, and there are cracks everywhere. If you move a little more, they'll break. You're lucky to have met me. If it wasn't me, if it was someone else, even if they wanted to save you, they wouldn't be able to do anything. It's rare for me to be so kind. While he was talking, he gathered an exceptionally dense and pure spiritual energy in his palm and slowly poured it out. The cool and refreshing spiritual energy flowed into the little critter's meridians like a gurgling stream. This sudden influx of spiritual energy instantly made the little critter's spirit rise. The indescribable pain in its body was alleviated by a lot as the spiritual energy flowed into its meridians. On the contrary, it felt incomparably comfortable and almost moaned out loud. The spiritual energy slowly soothed the weak meridians that were on the verge of breaking apart. Wherever it passed, it was like the most brilliant mender, slowly mending the damaged areas bit by bit. It advanced in a gradual manner and didn't let even a drop of water leak out. Why does this look so much like a Qigong deviation? Moreover, it's a very high-level big boss Qigong deviation. Afterwards, it was forcibly stopped by some kind of supreme divine power. But you're just a little guy. How could you possibly cause such a big commotion? Could it be that I've guessed wrongly? You're not a little guy at all, but the #1 big boss of the Tian Fa forest? June Moxie chuckled. He felt that what he had just said was very funny and laughed for a while. The little critter rolled its eyelids and looked at him. Its eyes revealed a strong disdain. Little thing, are you still not convinced? If you're a super beast king, then wouldn't I be the super invincible #1 expert in the universe? Big Brother can easily kill you with one hand now. Of course, I definitely won't lay my hands on such a cute little thing like you. June Moxie looked at the little critter's very human-like expression and couldn't help but be startled. He laughed mischievously and freed one of his hands to scratch the little critter's pink little nose. The little critter's throat made a soft sound, and its 2 big eyes revealed a trace of embarrassment. June Dashao teased the little critter like this, and he didn't know how much time had passed. It might have been a moment, or it might have been a very long time. Oh, little thing actually knows to be shy. June Moxie used the Xiantian spiritual chi in the Hongjun Pagoda to repair the little beast's damaged meridians. He heaved a sigh of relief and teased it. He then casually slapped the little critter's tender little butt. The little critter, Qigong's body trembled, and the little critter trembled. Just as he was about to struggle, June Moxie forcefully pressed him down. The injury is healed, but it has just been mended. Don't move recklessly. If you move recklessly, you will immediately return to your original state. T June QD June at SQT, and it. He gently slapped the little critter and found that the little critter's hair was fine and its flesh was soft as if it didn't have any bones. It felt especially good to the touch, and he couldn't help but need it a few more times. Anyway, you won't understand what I'm saying. June Moxie couldn't help but feel like a child, and he smiled until his eyes couldn't be seen. He picked up the little critter's soft body and brought it close to his eyes. Their eyes met, and the little critter actually turned its head away in embarrassment. Huh? June Moxie was overjoyed, and he used all his strength to search the little critter's body. His white fur became a bit messy, and he suddenly thought of something. You actually know to be shy? Damn it, it can't be a girl, right? And it should be a female, right? The little beast's entire body trembled violently. Suddenly, its eyes opened wide in disbelief. Its entire body skin instantly turned red like fresh blood. Even its white fur had turned red. Its body was completely stiff, and it didn't move a single inch. If it's a female, then so be it. Even if you're a female, I'm a man, but I can't rape you no matter what. Tell me, what are you afraid of? June Moxie looked at the little critter with interest, and he reached out to tease it a few times. The little critter let out a strange cry, and it finally came back to its senses. It realized the viciousness of the guy in front of it, and it was extremely humiliated. Its body twitched and trembled a few times, and its eyes widened to the maximum. Suddenly, its head tilted, and it actually fainted. Damn it, you can't take it anymore? Hey, I didn't do anything to you, I just lightly touched you. And you have such a big reaction? Could it be that this is your Achilles heel? June Moxie was a little puzzled, and he scratched his head with his fingers, and his face was full of bewilderment. At this moment, June Dashao suddenly shivered, and he suddenly felt a bone-chilling murderous intent. And that murderous intent was so strong that it was something that Dashao had never seen in his 2 lives. Even if it was June Moxie's own murderous intent of the evil monarch, compared to this chilling murderous intent, it would be an exaggeration to say that it paled in comparison. It was like comparing a small grass to a big tree, and there was absolutely no comparison between the two. This was a destructive, murderous intent. At this moment, June Moxie didn't even have time to feel where this murderous intent came from, and he already clearly felt that he had been completely locked on, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. He couldn't escape, even if he wanted to go up to heaven or down to hell. For a moment, June Moxie was drenched in cold sweat. Such a huge, dense, and terrifying murderous intent could actually cause one's thinking to slow down, and even his entire soul to become a little stiff. Under the shroud of this murderous intent, it seemed as if there was not a single bit of life in the entire world. His eyes were filled with the intention to die. It was hard to imagine that there would be such a terrifyingly strong person in the depths of this Tianfa forest. June Moxie suddenly regretted that he had been too careless when he had come in. June Moxie had seen many experts since he had crossed over, but those Tian Xian and Shun Xian couldn't even be compared to this murderous person. Even the great master Li Ju Tian couldn't compare. The intensity of this murderous intent had obviously exceeded the scope of June Moxie's imagination. Perhaps this was reasonable. After all, there were so many heavenly treasures in this place, and so many precious elixirs. So, it would be illogical if there wasn't a powerful guardian in this place. June Moxie's first instinct was to escape into the Hongjun Pagoda to take refuge. This was very frightening. This extremely frightening, murderous intent wasn't something that he could deal with. In fact, he wouldn't have been a match for this person even if he had been at his strongest in his previous life. June Moxie could even imagine how earth-shattering this murderous intent would be if it were to be unleashed. He wouldn't be able to evade or resist this attack. But just as June Moxie was about to escape, this terrifying murderous aura disappeared abruptly. Just like how it came, without any warning, suddenly appearing, and then mysteriously disappearing. It had come in a hurry, and had left in a hurry without a trace. The world had been restored to its original clarity in a split second. That was close. June Moxie panted a few times. He had a lingering fear in his heart. His spirit and the Hongjun Pagoda became one. Then, he stealthily spread out his spirit sense. However, he couldn't find any target, even after searching for a while. This is really strange. June Moxie frowned as he held the little thing in his arms. It must be known that Jun Da Xiao's current strength wasn't good, but his spirit sense was exceptionally strong. In fact, it wasn't any weaker than Shun Xian's. After fusing with the Hong Jun Pagoda's Xiantian spiritual energy, his strength had increased even more. Even the great masters and the beast kings of Tian Fa would have to bow down to him. Since the beginning of his cultivation, no one had been able to surpass him. Even the owner of that terrifying murderous intent was inferior to his spirit sense. Moreover, it was very well hidden. No one would be able to see through its mysteries. Therefore, Da Xiao had dared to release his spirit sense in order to find out the identity of that expert. Unfortunately, his spirit sense didn't find anything even after searching in all directions. It was as if there wasn't such a person around. However, he didn't realize that the little thing in his arms had already woken up. That pair of beautiful big eyes were staring at Jun Moxie. The expression in their eyes was extremely complicated and unpredictable. There was even a faint, ominous glint in their eyes. Those blurred eyes were sometimes indignant, sometimes shy, sometimes overflowing with murderous intent, and sometimes perplexed. Such complex emotions appeared in the eyes of small animal. It was very strange. However, Jun Moxie's entire mind was focused on that mysterious murderous intent that had appeared and disappeared mysteriously. So, he didn't notice this. He had searched everywhere in the surroundings, but he hadn't searched his own arms. This seemingly harmless little thing happened to be the darkest under the light. It was also the person that Jun Moxie was most afraid of so far. It was indisputably a true peak expert. Ah, little thing, you're awake. Why didn't you move even though you're awake? You really deserve a spanking. Are you hungry? Jun Moxie was finally sure that the mysterious murderous intent had completely disappeared. No matter who that person was, he was temporarily not a threat to him. His mind became active again. He lowered his head and saw that the little thing in his arms was staring at him. He couldn't help but scold it with a smile. The little thing immediately closed its eyes again and tightly hugged him. You're still angry with me? Isn't it just touching your little butt? Is it worth it? Jun Moxie curled his lips disdainfully and smacked the little things but twice. Then his palm stayed on it and kneaded the little but like kneading dough. He said with a face full of enjoyment, this feeling is really TSK. It's incurable. Little thing, can you follow me from now on? If you follow me, I will give you delicious food and fun things every day. Others don't get this treatment. I don't have any requirements. I just want to rub your butt every day. The little thing looked at him with shame and indignation. If it wasn't for the fact that its meridians had just been repaired and it was at its weakest, it would have almost swallowed this shameless guy. Who cares about your food and fun things? Follow you? What's so good about letting you rub my butt every day? What nonsense are you talking about? Good lad, it's true that you helped me today. But if I don't return the humiliation you gave me 1,000 times over, I won't be called. Just you wait. Unwilling? You still dare to be unwilling. I have done you a favor. Even if you don't want to, you still have to be willing. Jun Moxie snorted and continued to knead. Suddenly, he had a strange thought and said, You're so small and you're considered a female. Then if you have a child in the future, you'll have to feed it, right? But why didn't I notice that you have this equipment? Is it because it's too small? Is there something wrong with my eyes? I actually didn't notice. The little beast's entire body quivered. It glared with extreme grief and indignation as it watched the hateful brat in front of it turn its body over again and carefully search for something on its chest. Finally, TSK, there really is that thing. Why is it so small? It's not even the size of a mung bean. Your son is so pitiful. Looks like he's also a starving fellow. Jun Moxie finally found his target. He smiled evilly and stretched out his little finger to press it. Then he rubbed it and pinched it with 2 fingers. The little fellow's 2 hind legs kicked twice. Its whole body suddenly flushed red and its eyes stared blankly. A strange sound that sounded like it was crying and moaning came out of its throat. Finally, its head tilted and it fainted again. It fainted twice because of this guy. Too much of a bully, too much of a hoodlum. When it woke up again, it discovered that it was being carried out. It was swaying in the air, and it felt extremely uncomfortable. It turned out that after June Moxie was busy for a while, he suddenly felt that he needed to pee. However, the little thing was so smooth and comfortable in his hands. It felt so wonderful. He really couldn't bear to put it down. So, he simply picked up the little thing and walked out. He wanted to find a corner to relieve his physiological needs. He lifted his robe with one hand and unbuttoned his pants. After a while, the underwear inside hung down to his feet, revealing a pair of slightly furry thighs. Then, he walked out while swaying his head. Coincidentally, it fell right in front of the little thing's eyes. Anyway, it was just a little beast. What was there to be afraid of? Could it be that it had to be shy in front of its own dog and not pee? So, June Dashao didn't think too much about it. Splash, 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 splash. A stream of sparkling water. Ding Dong came to his heart's content. His whole body was relaxed. The little thing was carried out by him. It was puzzled. However, it didn't expect that this guy would unbutton his pants without any hesitation. It was so shy that it whimpered. Its two front paws covered its pair of beautiful big eyes. June Moxie saw its reaction and was very amused. He laughed wildly. After he was done, he shivered. He didn't even put on his belt. He just left it open. Then he pried open the two front paws of the little thing. With a flip of his hand, the little thing's eyes that had just opened came into close contact with his huge body. Immediately, it let out a cry. Its whole body turned red again. It closed its eyes tightly. At the same time, its two front paws grabbed fiercely. It simply wanted to tear young Master June's body into thousands of pieces. June Moxie's movements were extremely fast. With a whoosh, he had already lifted it up. He even mischievously blew into its mouth to make it open its eyes. Then, he said disdainfully, "See? Feel inferior now, huh?" The little thing looked at him with grief and indignation. It looked at him with tears in its eyes. It looked at him with so much pain that it wanted to die. It didn't know anything anymore. It only felt that its mind was blank. It was so ashamed that it wanted to die. "Oh, let me die. I don't have the face to live anymore. I don't want to live anymore." The domineering June Dashao didn't care about its reaction. He hummed a little tune and slowly pulled up his pants. Seeing the little thing in his hand struggling, June Dashao glared at it and threatened, "Stop it. If you move again, I'll stuff you into my pants." "Stuff into my pants." The little thing instantly stiffened. It really didn't dare to move. If this guy stuffed it into his pants, even if it could commit suicide in time, it would be a laughingstock for thousands of years. Looking at this guy's appearance, he had even done such a shameless thing before. So what else couldn't he do? Today, it could be said that it had tasted all the humiliation it could receive in its lifetime. How could this young human be so evil? He was evil to an indescribable extent. He was too evil, too shameless. June Moxie placed the stiff little thing in the stone room. Then, he glared at it and berated, "Don't move here. This brother will go out to gather some herbs first. I'll take you away when I come back. Be good." Then, he turned around and walked out. He walked to the entrance of the cave. Then, he jumped back, grabbed the little thing, and kneaded it a few times. He laughed heartily and said, "It's really comfortable. This brother is addicted to it. Don't run around." Then, he turned around and walked out. "Don't run around? Wait for you to come back and then ravage me?" The little thing hatefully looked at June Moxie's back as he walked out. It fiercely glared at him a few times. "Bastard, it must be you who stole my Tion Fa forest sacred fruit. Then, you specially came here to humiliate me. Humph, you've helped me a lot, but I won't let you off. There will come a day when I'll make you want to cry, but have no tears. You'll be like me. You'll be in a state where you can neither live nor die. First, I'll explode your that. Then, I'll make you do that. Then, I'll cut off your that. Who asked you to scare me?" The little thing's eyes were brimming with tears of grievance. It turned around and slowly went to the innermost part of the stone room. It was unknown what mechanism it had pressed, but it suddenly disappeared without a trace. It had been several hundred years since it had come out of its mother's womb, so it had long forgotten what it felt like to shed tears. But It hadn't expected that it would be humiliated by this guy to the point that its eyes were brimming with tears a few times today. This was intolerable. I'll recover completely in a day at most. Although, I've recovered so quickly because of this boy's help. But I will definitely take revenge. I've already remembered your smell. And I've also remembered your appearance. So, I won't have to worry about not being able to find you. There hasn't been a single person in the entire continent who has been able to escape my pursuit for several hundred years. Just you wait. Humph humph. Hateful brat. Shameless guy. You big scoundrel. I'll remember this for you. June Moxie had finally gathered enough medicinal ingredients. So, he went on a big sweep. It was as if he had truly returned from a rewarding journey. He felt extremely comfortable. But when he returned to the stone room, he was immediately dumbfounded. Only a black robe was left in the stone room. That extremely adorable little beast was actually gone. It had completely disappeared without a trace. Crap, where did that little thing go? Why did it run away without even saying a word? Jun Dashao was somewhat indignant. I've healed your injuries. I even said that I would give you delicious food and fun things to play with. But you actually didn't even say a word. You ungratefully ran away just like that. You're really an ingrate. However, Jun Dashao didn't give up. He carefully searched in a big circle. Then, he finally confirmed that the little thing had indeed ungratefully ran away. Wait until I catch you again. See if I don't need your little bud until it's rotten? Jun Moxie swore hatefully. His heart was filled with indescribable disappointment. He had wanted to bring this little thing back so that he could tease it often. Moreover, this little thing was so adorable that it was almost invincible. Perhaps it could also make Guan Qinghan happy. So, she wouldn't have to be so preoccupied all day. But his wishful thinking had clearly fallen through. You're really not tactful. You just wait for me. I'll use you to wipe but the next time I see you, I'll teach you a good lesson. Humph. Jun Moxie cursed in his heart. But he was filled with joy when he thought of the huge amount of elixirs in the Hongjun Pagoda. This trip to the Tian Fa forest had resulted in a bountiful harvest. In fact, it had exceeded his imagination. He had really struck it rich. Jun Moxie sighed in satisfaction. Then his body suddenly rose up and disappeared in midair. He had already activated the yin-yang escape. He had silently passed through the forest like a gust of wind. His target was the Tianan city. There was only one herb left that he urgently needed at present, the 9 Xian root. Grandpa Jun's cultivation would soar to the level of Shun Xian once he got his hands on the 9 Xian root. Moreover, he was confident that he would surpass Shun Xian in one fell swoop. In fact, he would reach the level of Shun Xian in a single bound. Grandfather's cultivation would still be far from enough when that time comes. But it would be second to none in Tianxiang City, or perhaps the entire Tianxiang Empire. He believed that even the emperor of Tianxiang would have to worry about the consequences of offending a powerhouse like Shun Xian if he wanted to deal with the Jun family. Even if he didn't consider the Jun family's enormous military power, he would still have to worry about the consequences of offending a powerhouse like Shun Xian. This kind of consequence wasn't something that could be casually endured. Even the emperor of a country wasn't an exception to this. An enemy of Shun Xian would often mean a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Jun Moxie would then be able to relax. He would then be able to concentrate on dealing with the third uncle's matter, the Silver Blizzard City. Even if he couldn't slaughter the entire Shao family for the time being, he would still have to rescue Han Yinyao first. This was Jun Wui's biggest worry. It was also Han Yinyao's hope. Moreover, it was Jun Moxie's responsibility. It was a promise that he had made in his heart. It was already the night of the second day when Jun Mo Xie returned to Southern Heaven City. In other words, he had stayed in the Tian Fa forest for a full day and a night. Boy, where did you go? You took so long to come back. Jun Moxie had just returned when he was confronted by Jun Wui. The three uncles of Shun Xian were glaring at him as if they wanted to eat him alive. In fact, it seemed as if they were about to rush up and beat him up. His precious nephew had mysteriously disappeared for a full day and a night. Jun Wui's hair had almost turned white from worry. This was the Tiannan city, the territory of the Shuehan Manor. Jun Wui and the three brothers of the Dongfang family would have gone to the Shuehan Manor or the Silver Blizzard City if Jun Moxie hadn't returned. I just went out for a stroll. I didn't go far. Jun Moxie rolled his eyes. Then he quickly slipped past the four and disappeared. Are you kidding me? Can I really tell you that I went for a stroll into the Tian FA forest yesterday? And I even had a very friendly and pleasant meeting with the 7 Beast Kings. Both sides were friendly and had the same interests. And both sides had reached a mutually beneficial cooperation agreement. The 4 men looked at each other in dismay. You just went for a stroll? This is the first time you've come to Tiannan City. You're not familiar with the people and the place. So, where did you go for a stroll? Moreover, you went for a full day and a night. Aren't you too good at strolling? You didn't go far? Then you should have strolled all the way back to Tianxiang City. This bastard kid, don't you know that the 4 of us were worried to death? However, it was clear that Jun Moxie didn't want to talk about it. Anyway, he had returned safely. So, the 4 men weren't in the mood to pursue this matter. Jun Wui knew that his nephew was truly remarkable. Moreover, he was in Tiannan City. So, he wouldn't be too worried even if he didn't return for a few days. Revised Draft. Chapter 346. I just went out for a stroll. I didn't go far. Jun Moxie rolled his eyes and quickly slipped past the 4 men and disappeared. Are you kidding me? Can I really tell you that I went for a stroll into the Tian FA forest yesterday and had a very friendly and pleasant meeting with the 7 Beast Kings? Both sides had reached a mutually beneficial cooperation agreement based on the premise that we share the same interests. The 4 men looked at each other in dismay. You just went for a stroll? This is the first time you've come to the Southern Heaven City, and you're not familiar with the people and the place. Where did you go for a stroll? And you went for a day and a night? Aren't you too good at strolling? You didn't go far? You could have strolled all the way back to the Tianxiang City. Doesn't this bastard know that the 4 of us are worried to death? However, it was clear that Jun Moxie didn't want to talk about it. Anyway, he had returned safely, and the 4 men weren't in the mood to pursue the matter. Jun Wui knew that his nephew was truly remarkable. Moreover, he was in the Southern Heaven City. So, he wouldn't have been too worried even if he hadn't returned for a few days. However, the 4 of them hadn't expected that Jun Moxie would go out for a stroll. It wasn't too far. He had only gone to the core area of Tian FA forest to pick some medicinal herbs and some small bees chrysanthemums and so on. The 4 men looked at each other and shook their heads. They were about to follow him in. They had been worried for a whole night. So, they could finally relax when they saw that Jun Dashao had returned. The war would begin tomorrow, and everyone's minds were heavy at the moment. So, they decided to take a good rest. Suddenly, a soldier at the gate came to report that the young master of the Shuehan Manor, Li Tengyun, had come to visit. Jun Wui pondered for a moment, and then said, "Please." The 3rd master of the Shuehan Manor had decided that Jun Wui would be the commander-in-chief of the decisive battle, and that he would be the vanguard. However, the Shuehan Manor had suddenly sent their 3rd master to replace Jun Wui as the supreme commander of the Shuehan Manor. This was rather baffling. This so-called commander-in-chief position didn't have much real authority at all. If he won, he wouldn't get any credit. If he lost, he would have to take the blame. If he lost, he would be the first to die in battle. He even had to guard against the plots of his own enemies. It was a 100% strenuous and unrewarding role. No one understood what Li Jutian meant by this. Why send the 3rd master of Shanxian's cultivation to die when they already have Jun Wui, the first scapegoat? Wasn't that too much of a pity? However, this was the opinion of the #1 expert in the Allied forces. No one dared to refute it. Therefore, the final candidate for the commander was temporarily put aside. However, there were only 2 candidates. It was either the 3rd elder or Jun Wui. Li Tengyun's arrival was presumably related to this matter. So, everyone wanted to see what he had to say. All the major families and forces had sent their experts to participate in the preparations for the war in the morning. And the Shuihun Manor and the Silver Blizzard City obviously didn't dare to be negligent. After all, these two families had pushed Junwu Yi into a desperate situation, and they couldn't afford to be negligent either. So, wouldn't they be despised by the whole world if they didn't do anything in the first place? Everyone knew that their chances of victory were very slim. In fact, they didn't even have the slightest chance of success. However, they still had to send people, even if it meant throwing away their lives. Junwu Yi, the Dongfang family, the Duanmu family, and the Sikong family had come to mediate. So, the Silver Blizzard City had dispatched the 3rd, 6th, and 9th elders, Mu Shuitong and Xiao Han, Tianxian, and the 7 swords of the Silver Blizzard City. It could be said that this was more than 70% of the Silver Blizzard City's total strength. So, it couldn't be said that they weren't strong enough. After all, the 3rd, 6th, and 9th elders wouldn't be justified if they were to dispatch the 7 swords. Moreover, the 7 swords of the Silver Blizzard City had the most formidable sword formation. So, their strength would be weakened if they were to be separated. So, they had no choice but to send all 7 of them. Mu Shuitong and Xiao Han were the real additions to the battle. After all, experts like Tianxian weren't as rare as they used to be in this place. However, the Silver Blizzard City's calculations were sound. They had so many experts to protect them, so they wouldn't die even if they were to lose this battle. The Silver Blizzard City's losses wouldn't be too great, but they would be throwing away their lives if they sent too few people. The Silver Blizzard City's other experts, the 2nd, 5th, and 8th elders, couldn't go because of Xiao Buyu's enmity with the Dongfang family. Moreover, the 3 members of the Dongfang family had come to fight. Otherwise, wouldn't it be terrible if they got into a conflict with their own people? Xiao Buyu was the person in charge of the Silver Blizzard City's operation. He was gauging the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a petty man. It didn't matter what kind of personal enmity he had with the Dongfang family, but this was a matter of life and death for the future of the human race. So, he couldn't bring himself to bring up old scores for the sake of the bigger picture. The Duanmu family and the Sikong family had always been friends with the 3 Dongfang brothers. So, they had seen that Dongfang Wenqing was obviously standing on Junwui's side. So, they had naturally stood on their side as well. The Shuihun Manor had also put in a lot of effort. They had dispatched more than half of their manpower. Among them were 300 Yu Xian experts, 100 Earth Xian experts, 30 Tian Xian experts, and 5 Xin Xian experts. The Shuihun Manor's manpower was the best among all the forces. The weaker Bailey family had dispatched 3 people. Apart from the 2 Tian Xian experts, only Yu Xian's Bailey Luo Yun was among them. This decision made all the great clans present sigh inwardly. They had unknowingly looked down on the Heavenly Tao sect a little. Such a young genius is being treated like this by the Bailey family. They are too short-sighted. Regardless of the enmity between them, they can't live under the same sky. But they should have supported this peerless genius, even if they couldn't live under the same sky. Bailey Luo Yun should have been expelled from the family in the most severe punishment. Bailey Luo Yun's surname will still be Bailey, even if he becomes a vagabond of the Jianghu. So, he will still be a member of the Bailey family in the eyes of the people of Jianghu. Moreover, he will become another Xin Xian if he's given a few decades of cultivation. In fact, he might even become a great master. Bailey Luo Yun will become the guardian of the Bailey family at that time. Bailey Luo Yun and the Bailey family might have some enmity at that time, but anyone who wants to deal with the Bailey family will have to consider Bailey Luo Yun's attitude. He will be a threat at the very least, and the Bailey family will rise along with him. But the Bailey family wants to destroy this genius here. They can't wait to put him to death. This made everyone despise the Bailey family's decision. They're a big family. They don't have foresight. They don't see the big picture. They are narrow-minded. How can they achieve great things? Some people had even asserted that the Bailey family has begun to decline from now on. In fact, they are done for. Junwui had only selected 300 people from the 20,000 soldiers that he had led. These people included Yu Xian. The remaining people were all at the initial stage of the Earth Xian realm. Moreover, these people were the bodyguards that had been sent by the big families to protect the young masters. Jun Wui understood the emperor's intentions as soon as these people had been selected. The young masters of the big families would certainly be safe under his careful protection. However, he and these people would be the ones who would be sent to their deaths. The strength of the big families in the capital was quite scattered, so they would be much more stable after this reorganization. These people weren't considered experts in the whole world, but they would be a considerable force in the Tianxiang city. After all, when the tiger is away, the monkey will be the king. However, the strength of the big families would be greatly weakened if most of these people were to die here. And these treasures of the big families would naturally be indignant if their bodyguards were to die. So they would return to their families and see their brothers and sisters at home. So they would feel even more unbalanced in their hearts. So it wouldn't matter if they were to fight for power, or if they were to overthrow the position of the heir to the throne. It would cause a huge change, and this would further divide and eliminate the already shrinking strength of the big families. The result of this gradual shrinking could only be the emperor using his imperial power to hold these families even more tightly in the palm of his hand. When the time comes, the patriarchs of the big families would join forces to threaten the imperial power, and that would be a thing of the past. Such a profound calculation. Such an exquisite layout. So, His Majesty the Emperor's far-sighted planning has already reached this point. The handsome Li Tingyun was dressed in gaudy clothes, while elder San was lost in his thoughts. He wore a shiny silver robe and looked like a walking lighthouse. Jun Wui and Dongfang Wenjian were flabbergasted. They couldn't believe their eyes. He's dressed like this. Isn't he too coquettish? He would have been a typical live target if he had been an assassin. His aim would have been bad, but he would have been ruthlessly beaten if he had thrown a sword at him. Li Tingyun walked in with his two followers. He cupped his fists and spoke in an arrogant manner. "General Jun, I've taken the liberty to visit you. I hope 3rd General Jun won't take offense." "It's nothing. The young master is too polite." Jun Wui returned the courtesy without batting an eyelid. "I don't know what the young master has come here for." Li Tingyun chuckled. He looked left and right. He wanted to say something, but he hesitated. Dongfang Wenqing and the others chuckled. They knew that he had some misgivings. So, they tactfully took their leave. Jun Moxie walked out from behind the curtain as soon as the three of them left. There were two silhouettes sitting behind the curtain. They were Guanqing Han and Duga Xiaoi. Jun Moxie and Guanqing Han had some guesses about Li Tingyun's purpose in coming here, so they had come out early. Duga Xiaoi had naturally followed them. Everyone here is on the same side, so the young master can speak his mind. Jun Wui had a faint smile on his face, but there was a faint coldness in his eyes. Jun Wui wasn't a fool, so he had naturally guessed Li Tingyun's purpose in coming here. This young master will speak frankly in that case. Li Tingyun's smile revealed a trace of confidence. Li Tingyun's smile exposed a trace of self-confidence. He didn't care about Jun Mo Xie, who had just come out. In fact, Li Tingyun didn't even care about the entire Jun family. After all, the Jun family was nothing in front of a colossus like the Shuehan Manor. This young master of the manor met Guanqing Han by chance the last time I was touring the Tianxiang Empire. Miss Guan was a celestial being. I've been longing for her ever since, and I haven't been able to forget her ever since. Li Tingyun smiled elegantly and said, "It is reported that young Lady Guan has been widowed for many years, but she is still the Jun family's eldest granddaughter-in-law. Hee. Everyone knows that this marriage shouldn't be valid. In fact, it's only a title and name at best. Tingyun has come here today to request 3rd Master Jun to set young Lady Guan free, so we can have a wonderful marriage. Wouldn't that be perfect for both sides? My Shuehan Manor will also return the favor if the Jun family is willing to let us go." Li Tingyun waved his hand to stop Jun Wui from speaking. He then continued, "3rd Master Jun must have noticed that the Shuehan Manor's 3rd Master had been instructed by me to volunteer to take command of this decisive battle. Everyone knows that this decisive battle isn't an ordinary one. In fact, we'll be facing high-level Shin beasts, and I'm sure that we'll meet a miserable end if we're not careful. General Jun's strength is naturally very high, and his attainments in Xianqi, he's also outstanding. Tung Yin admires this very much. However, General Jun's body is handicapped, so I'm sure that General Jun knows that he'll be facing a high-level Shin beast if he goes up, and he won't be able to survive. Jun Wui lowered his eyelids to hide the anger in his eyes. He then said in a deep voice, "The young master of the manor's purpose in coming here isn't just to lament about the danger of my life. Tell me your true intentions." Well, General Jun is a straightforward man. So, this young master of the manor will also speak frankly. General Jun won't have to die as long as you agree to my request. Li Tungyin was getting tired of beating around the bush. So, he got straight to the point. My Shuehun Manor will seize command of this battle with a strong stance when the time comes. And we won't tarnish the Jun family's prestige. The Jun family will be safe from the Xian beasts under the protection of my Shuehun Manor. Moreover, we'll do our best to mediate even if the Silver Blizzard City attacks us in the dark. Li Tungyin narrowed his eyes. His face revealed a well-thought-out expression. This young master of the manor knows what General Jun is worried about. So, I won't make things difficult for you. And the Jun family's only contribution isn't a single woman. In fact, it's a woman who has nothing to do with the Jun family. Listen to young Master Li. Is this woman worthless? Jun Moxie suddenly interjected. This woman, the third young master's words don't seem to be in line with his family status. I'm very surprised. Li Tungyin raised his eyelids in Lang and said, "How many women in this world are valuable? Even if they are successful, they're only relying on the prestige of their husband's family. That's all. Families like yours and mine gift each other a few horses, a few dogs, or even a few women. Isn't that a very common thing? It's just a game. Why make such a big fuss? Only play around?" Jun Wui's voice became cold. In fact, it sounded like the cold winds of a snowy mountain. Young Master Li, is this your condition? My condition is very sincere. Don't tell me that the General Jun is still not satisfied? Li Tungyin heard the coldness in Jun Wui's words. So, he glared at Jun Wui with an ominous glint in his eyes. Then, his voice became even more threatening. Third General Jun, you must reconsider. Tomorrow will be your death anniversary if you refuse my sincere offer. You'll have to face crazy Shin beasts and sharp old enemies. But you'll also have to deal with an even more powerful force. So, you'll have to use an unrelated woman in exchange for your life and the safety of your entire family. I believe that anyone would know how to choose. Moreover, this decision will bring great happiness to that woman. General Jun, you won't be so unwise when faced with the two paths of life and death, right? Unrelated? Guanxing Han is a member of my Jun family. At least, she still is. Jun Wui Lang looked at him and said, I won't allow outsiders to humiliate her as long as she's a member of the Jun family. Young Master Li, you don't need to worry about this Jun family survival. Men, see the guest out. Jun Wui, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. This young master of the manor has come to negotiate with you because I'm giving you face. But I've also offered generous conditions. Do you really think that you're a big shot? Li Tungyin stood up and spoke in a ruthless manner. You don't know what's good for you. So, why should I worry about you if you're bent on courting death? It doesn't matter if you die or not. Do you think that you can stop me from obtaining Guanxing Han, even if you don't die? Jun Moxie clicked his tongue twice and said, Young Master Li is very strange. Since when did you have the right to worry about our Jun family? Who do you think you are? The only son of the great master Zhu Tian, the dignified young master of the Shuehun Manor. So this is how he behaves? You've really broadened my horizons. No wonder my sister-in-law doesn't like you. I believe that any other woman wouldn't like you either. That's because you have a father who claims to be the second most powerful man in the world. The Shuehun Manor is really stupid. Very well. Jun Moxie, You'll pay for your indiscreet words. You'll have to wait for your third uncle's corpse tomorrow. Li Tung-yin snorted. He flicked his sleeves and stood up. This young master of the manor doesn't want to argue with you. Jun Moxie, you're not worthy. Your Jun family doesn't deserve to bargain with me. Jun Moxie sneered and said, it's hard to say who's worthy or not. At least, there's a toad in front of me who wants to eat the flesh of a swan. Do you think you're worthy? You. Li Tung-yun's anger had just risen, but it disappeared in a flash. Then, Lang continued, I, Li Tung-yun, can't get a woman I want. Jun Moxie, you'll be the one in the southern heaven city if you lose the protection of your third uncle and his 3 uncles. Tomorrow, it'll be your third uncle's. Maybe the day after that, it'll be yours, brat. Are the 3 uncles of Shun Xian's that great? Jun Moxie, the strength you're relying on isn't worth mentioning in my eyes. Let me tell you, in this world, a bigger fist is the most important thing. I've always known that a bigger fist is the most important thing. Would the Shuehun Manor have become a nest of Xian beasts if the Xian beasts weren't so powerful? Would the insufferably arrogant Great Master Zhu Tian have issued a supreme summon if the Xian beasts weren't strong enough? You're still being so arrogant at this point. You're shameless. Jun Moxie silently shook his head. The Shuehun Manor is a dead duck with a stubborn mouth. Let's see which family will cry after tomorrow's war. Well, let's see which family will cry. Jun Moxie, you brat. Just wait to wear mourning clothes. Li Tung-yin turned around to leave. He stopped at the door and asked, Jun Wui, are you sure you won't regret it? Get lost. This was Jun Wui's reply. Jun Wui's patience with this shameless young master of the Shuehun Manor had already reached its limit. A sharp light flashed in Li Tung-yun's eyes. He snorted heavily and turned around to leave. Young Master Tung-yun, wait. Jun Daxiao suddenly called out to Li Tung-yun. Li Tung-yun turned his head and snorted. Are you afraid now? Jun Daxiao, quickly advise your third uncle and your grandfather. There's no need to sacrifice the entire Jun family for a woman. A wise man submits to the circumstances. Young Master Tung-yun, you've misunderstood the reason why I called out to you. I'm just reminding you out of good intentions. You got a black mark on your forehead. Your left eye is blue, and your right eye is red. You've got a stupid and unfortunate look on your face. You're going to face a bloody calamity in the near future. So, it's better to worry about your own safety instead of worrying about other people's lives. Otherwise, you'll implicate your father in case I'm right. You'll be very unfilial. Jun Daxiao spoke slowly. Master Zhu Tian is more than 100 years old. I'm afraid that he won't be able to give birth to another child. Young master, please take care of yourself. You. Li Tung-yun's nose almost became crooked. He snorted heavily and swaggered away without looking back. Third uncle, has our side's personnel been determined for tomorrow's battle? Jun Moxie asked. It's been determined. The experts of the major families will be participating in this battle apart from me. I've already drawn out all of them in order to deal with this battle. Our Tianxiang Empire's military prowess is at the top of the entire continent. But when it comes to Xianxi prowess, we're at the bottom of all the powers present in this conference. This is a well-known fact. As for your 200 guards and generals, I haven't drawn out any of them. Jun Wui smiled and replied in a dull manner. We're going to lose this battle. So, why should we sacrifice so many? Jun Wui hadn't said some things clearly, but Jun Moxie was very clear in his heart. These 200 guards are Mo Xie's core subordinates. They're also the future hope of the Jun family. So, it's enough for me to die in this battle. So, why should I sacrifice these people? Jun Moxie was moved in his heart. Jun Wui didn't know that he had the ability to protect the Jun family from harm. Therefore, he had made up his mind to sacrifice himself. But he was still thinking about himself and the Jun family at this time. Third uncle, Jun Moxie muttered to himself for a moment. Then he spoke in a heavy tone. Don't worry, it'll be all right. The outcome of tomorrow's battle is hard to predict. In fact, the chances of defeat are quite high. But, third uncle, you'll be fine. I can vouch for this. Jun Wui looked at him for a long time. Then he suddenly smiled and said, I hope that's the case. Then he suddenly called out, Qing Han, can you come out now? You've been hiding and eavesdropping. You should have heard enough, right? Come out. Guan Qing Han and Dugu Xiaoyi came out in embarrassment. They looked at Jun Wui with deep worry in their eyes. This was especially true for Guan Qing Han, but her face was full of sorrow. Jun Wui coughed twice. Then he suddenly became silent. His eyes exposed a contradictory look. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he spoke in a hoarse voice. The three of you are in front of me today. One of you is my nephew. One of you is the daughter-in-law of the Jun family. And the last one is the pearl of the Dugu family. So, you can represent the Dugu family. Xiao Yi, I'll have to trouble you to be my witness. Dugu Xiaoyi didn't know what he wanted to say, but she instinctively felt depressed. It seemed that Jun Wui was about to make an exceptionally important decision. So, she couldn't help but nod subconsciously. Guan Qinghan's heart shook. She had guessed what Jun Wui was going to do. So, she couldn't help but cry out in grief, Third uncle, don't. You can't. Chapter 347. Today's first update. I'm working hard on the second update. Jun Wui smiled faintly, but he firmly shook his head and slowly took out a token from his bosom. The surface of the token was made of copper, and the glittering gemstones on it were glittering and dazzling, forming the word Jun. On the back, there was the word order written in meticulous strokes. The Jun family's master's token. Mo, Xia, your grandfather personally handed this token to me 3 months ago. From then on, I, Jun Wui, am the current master of the Jun family. I hold this token in my hand, and all the decisions I make are the Jun family's decisions. No one from the Jun family is allowed to disobey me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Jun Wui spoke each word in a heavy tone. After he finished speaking, he suddenly raised the token, and with a cold face, he shouted, The Jun family's third-generation daughter-in-law, Guan Qing Han, step forward and kneel. Guan Qing Han looked at the third master in fear, and saw that his expression was cold and solemn. There was no room for compromise, so she could only sigh, step forward, and kneel in front of Jun Wui. The Jun family's daughter-in-law, Guan Qing Han, has a virtuous temperament and is well-mannered. She was 20 years old and was ordered by her parents to temporarily get engaged. Unfortunately, the Jun family's third-generation eldest son, Wu Yu, died on the battlefield before the wedding could be consummated. Guan Qing Han is in the prime of her youth, and her body is as pure as ice and as pure as jade. She has been bitterly guarding her for 5 years, and has long since completed the relationship between the two families. But the Jun family cannot delay her life. She has not married, and she has not married, and there is no such thing as a widow. Today, I, Jun Wui, as the current master of the Jun family, sign this document of separation to clear Guan Qing Han's name and to return her freedom. From now on, the marriage of a man and a woman has nothing to do with each other. The witness, the Dugu family, Dugu Xiaoyi, the direct descendant of the Jun family, Jun Moxie, can bear witness to this. The heavens and the earth bear witness to this. Guan Qing Han already knew that this would be his decision, but when these words came out of Jun Wui's mouth without any hesitation, they clearly fell into her ears. Every word seemed to fall on her heart, and she couldn't help but burst into tears. Dugu Xiaoyi, who was standing at the side, had her mouth wide open. She had never imagined that she would witness such a huge event. Jun Wui's face turned cold after he finished speaking. He faced Jun Moxie and shouted, The third generation of the Jun family, Jun Moxie, step forward and kneel. Jun Moxie was startled. Third uncle, is there anything else? The third generation of the Jun family, Jun Moxie, step forward and kneel. Jun Wui repeated in a stern voice. Jun Moxie muttered in his heart, but in this situation, he had no choice but to kneel down listlessly. The third generation of the Jun family, Jun Moxie, is young, tenacious, and open-minded. Today I, Jun Wui, will pass on the position of the head of the family to Jun Moxie. The heavens and the earth bear witness to this. Although he had vaguely guessed this result, Jun Moxie still couldn't help but be shocked when he heard the order. He stood up and shook his hands. "Third uncle, you can't do this. You're still in the prime of your life." No, I'm still in the prime of my life. Why are you in such a hurry to pass on the position to me? I really don't want to be the head of the family." Impudent. Jun Wooey glared angrily and shouted, "The descendants of the Jun family who don't obey the order of the head of the family will be regarded as disobedience. Jun Moxie, what are you waiting for if you don't accept the order?" Jun Moxie rolled his eyes helplessly. He reluctantly accepted the order and said, "Third uncle, I know that you're worried about tomorrow's battle. In fact, you're even prepared to die. But I'm telling you, I'm not accepting the order. I'm only keeping it for the time being. If third uncle returns safe and sound, I'll return the order." Jun Wooey couldn't help but smile faintly and said, "That's up to you." Jun Imosia had said that Jun Woo-ee was prepared to die a long time ago. He was aware that he wouldn't have the slightest chance of surviving tomorrow's battle. Therefore, he had made this hasty decision that very night in order to resolve two important matters in his heart. Jun Moxie had solemnly vowed that Jun Moxie was only trying to comfort him. But how could he believe it? In tomorrow's battle, Jun Woo-ee could already predict that those so-called experts would swarm into battle like a swarm of bees. Then they would leave him, the commander-in-chief, completely exposed. Then countless Xian beasts would crazily rush over and tear him to shreds. In fact, the experts of the Shui Hun Manor and the Silver Blizzard City would even ambush him in the midst of the melee. So, it was easy to imagine what would happen, not to mention the fact that he was a mere Tian Xian. Even a powerhouse like Shun Xian wouldn't have a chance of survival if he were to fight alone. Imosia, it would be best if I could return safely from tomorrow's battle. But the Jun family will be relying on you if I'm unfortunate enough to die in battle. Jun Wooey's tone was calm as he said, "Your grandfather is old. You must take good care of him. Moreover, you must remember about Qing Han. She used to be the daughter-in-law of the Jun family, even though her engagement has been annulled. So, you must not allow anyone to bully her. Not even anyone. Death is the only thing that matters." "Yes, I will remember." Jun Wooey let out a long sigh. His eyes gazed into the distance. Then he spoke in a dreamy tone. "Moreover, I must entrust you with a very important matter. If one day you can go to the Silver Blizzard City and see her, please say a few words for me." Jun Wooey's voice suddenly paused. Jun Moxie listened quietly and didn't ask any questions. He knew that the her that Jun Wooey was talking about was the pitiful woman who had been painstakingly guarding the snowy peak. She was also the source of all the disasters, Han Yinyao. Jun Moxie's feelings towards Han Yinyao were very complicated. There was no other reason. If it weren't for Han Yinyao, then none of these tragedies would have happened. You're a princess of the Silver Blizzard City. So, you ran to the secular world to play. But why did you provoke Jun Wooey? Don't you know that I've been betrothed since I was a child? Xiao Han's actions naturally deserve death. But on the other hand, which man in this world would be so willing to wear this lush green hat? His fiancée of 10 years had suddenly run away with a strange man. Such a matter was beyond the limits of a man's endurance. Anyone would have gone crazy if they'd been in his place. However, Jun Moxie knew that love was something that couldn't be reasoned with. Even the wisest man would have turned into a fool when love had arrived. Both of them were well-mannered and restrained. But they had developed feelings for each other. So, who could explain why this had happened? There was no why in love. He looked at Jun Wooey and Han Yinyao again. Both of them had been in pain for 10 years. But their true feelings hadn't changed. They were still infatuated and bitterly in love, even though they were far apart. So, how could one not be moved even if one's heart was made of stone? Jun Moxie also knew that Jun Wooey's heart must have been filled with monstrous waves. The past events of the past had flashed through his mind, and this was the time when his emotions were the most turbulent. He had asked him to pass a message to Han Yinyao. Perhaps this was the condensation of the third uncle's lifelong feelings. After a long time, Junwui gently exhaled a breath. It seemed like a sigh, but it was a sigh filled with the lingering infatuation of 3 lifetimes. The corners of his mouth revealed a trace of a desolate smile, but it was filled with endless tenderness and sweetness. He slowly said, "Unforgettable grudges, unforgettable you. Only because of infatuation, only for you. This journey to the Yellow Springs still has a dream. Heaven and earth a wisp of soul." Dugu Xiaoyi suddenly sobbed. Guan Xinghan's pretty face was also full of tear stains. They knew about Junwui's past from different channels. When they saw Junwui reciting these few lines of poetry, they couldn't help but shed tears of sadness. From this poem, it was enough to tell that Junwui and Han Yin Yao loved each other deeply. The 2 women felt as if the softest part of their hearts had been touched. They felt overwhelmed by this feeling of despair. Unforgettable grudges, unforgettable you. Only because of infatuation, only for you. This journey to the Yellow Springs still has a dream. Heaven and earth, a wisp of soul. Even though so many disputes have occurred, I am still infatuated with you. Today, I will go to the Yellow Springs for you. But I will still think of you. Even if I die in the heaven and earth, I will never forget you. I will never forget you. This wisp of soul will exist forever. This is a love that will never change in life or death. Any oath, any promise, everything will be overshadowed in front of this love. Jun Moxie suddenly heard the 3rd uncle's whisper in his heart. He felt his heart tremble. It turned out that the 3rd uncle's love, hatred, and sorrow were so strong and lingering. Jun Moxie could hear the 3rd uncle's undying love in this poem of 28 words. But he could also hear the other meaning of Junwui's words. Unforgettable grudges. Unforgettable you. Grudges were ranked before you. Grudges. Obviously, in Junwui's heart, the deaths of his 2 brothers and 2 nephews had always been a grudge. Even she couldn't get rid of it. Couldn't get rid of it. The biggest worry in his heart. I will remember it. 3rd uncle, don't worry. Jun Moxie had originally wanted to leak some secrets to make Junwui feel at ease. At most, he would make up a big lie. He could say that his mysterious master had a friendship with Tian Fa's Beast King. But he changed his mind after he heard the 2 layers of meaning. The desire to die in Junwui's heart was already deeply rooted in his heart. Even if he took his revenge in the future, he would still feel guilty towards his brothers and nephews. Even if he took his revenge and brought back Han Yin Yao, Junwui was destined to never have any happiness in this life. He was destined to torture himself for the rest of his life. It was easy to get rid of the torture from others, but the torture from the bottom of his heart was impossible to get rid of, and he was getting more and more desperate. Whether it was Junwui being crippled for the rest of his life, or being separated from his lover for the rest of his life, they might not even have the chance to meet again. There was also the huge pressure from his life and death feud. All of these pressured Junwui to the point of suffocation. But it was only external pressure. It was far from being comparable to the guilt in his heart. Chapter 348. Perhaps it was predestined that even the heavens would take pity on a pitiful person like Junwui. The southern heaven city was fraught with dangers and murderous intentions. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that it was a narrow escape from death. In fact, Junwui felt that he was doomed to die a long time ago. But all of this had been predestined to be a daunting experience without mishap under the mediation of Jun Moxie. Junwui didn't even need to pay attention to the hidden arrows in the dark. He could guarantee his safe return. However, the third Master Jun was completely unaware of all this. He had participated in this decisive battle with a mentality of certain death. So, this experience of life and death would inevitably have a major change in his mentality if he were to escape from death after the battle. Perhaps this would be a turning point in his life. Perhaps this would be a turning point in his life. A person who had been reborn after death would naturally not have such a strong desire to die. In fact, he would feel as if he had repaid something in his heart, and he would feel reluctant to part with his life in the future. This was a subtle psychological phenomenon. Jun Moxie felt that his third uncle, Jun Wooey, needed the feeling of death. So, he didn't say anything. In fact, he planned to provoke the third uncle with a few more words. About the grudge, does the third uncle have anything else to say? Jun Moxie asked. Since he had decided to send the third uncle to the cliff, he might as well add more fuel to the fire. He would let him vent his anger today. The more he vented, the more relaxed he would be after tomorrow. So what if the cliff was high and dangerous? The most perfect safety measures had already been taken. The grudge, this is exactly what I wanted to say. Jun Wooey looked at him deeply and solemnly said, "Revenge must be taken. But, Emosia, you must promise me one thing. The third uncle won't be able to rest in peace if I don't get this promise from your own mouth." "What is it?" "Third uncle, please speak clearly," Jun Moxie asked. "I know that your current strength has already far exceeded the scope of my imagination, but I still want you to promise me that before your strength has reached the level of a supreme being, before you have absolute confidence, don't even think about taking revenge. That would only doom the Jun family to eternal damnation. The burden of the Jun family rests on your shoulders. Don't disappoint me." Jun Wooyi's eyebrows were knitted in deep pain and deep hatred. "I also believe that you're resourceful, talented, and strong. The day of your revenge won't be far off. So, you must remember this when you're strong enough. Emosia, your third uncle. I want the Shao family to be completely annihilated and consigned to eternal damnation." Jun Wooey clenched his teeth. His usually indifferent and affectionate face showed traces of malevolence for the first time. Jun Wooey had always followed the principle of the crime of one's wife and children shouldn't be punished. This was also his way of doing things. But today, he had actually said something like completely annihilated and consigned to eternal damnation. It was clear that his hatred for the Silver Blizzard City's Shao family had already reached an extreme level. Third uncle, the Shao family is already doomed to a tragedy. Just as you said, this day will not be too far away. Jun Moxie clenched his teeth and fiercely said. In the end, he added, "Third uncle, you can go in peace." Guan Qinghan heard this and immediately became unhappy. Her long and shapely eyebrows were raised on her tear-stained face. "Jun Moxie, how can you say that, you bastard? What do you mean by rest in peace? Is that what you're saying?" Even Dugu Xiaoi was unhappy. She pouted her small mouth as she looked at Jun Moxie. Her expression was very unfriendly. Jun Moxie raised his hands in surrender. He couldn't afford to provoke a woman who was deeply moved. "Didn't I just create a tense atmosphere? It's not like I didn't prepare for a good thing. Who could be more concerned about the safety of the third uncle than I am?" Jun Wooey chuckled and said, "Qinghan, you're no longer the daughter-in-law of my Jun family. But are you willing to be the daughter of my Jun family?" "Third uncle?" Guan Qinghan raised her head in astonishment. Her heart was filled with grief. She had broken off her engagement with the Jun family. Her family would certainly sacrifice her in order to please the Shui Hun manor if she were to return to the Guan family. She didn't know what to do in her heart. In fact, she would rather grow old alone in the Jun family than marry a scoundrel like Li Tengyun if she had the choice to make. She had heard Li Tengyun's malicious word from behind the curtain. So, her heart had been filled with disgust. It was an insult to look at such a scum. What's more, marrying him and accompanying him for a lifetime. Guan Qinghan understood as soon as she heard Jun Wooey's words. Jun Wooey didn't mean to stand idly by. Instead, he wanted to use a different method to protect her. She couldn't help but feel extremely moved in her heart. "Qinghan, I, Jun Wooey, will adopt you as my daughter if you're willing. I, Jun Wooey, have no way forward. But, Qinghan, you'll be a legitimate member of the Jun family from now on. No one will be allowed to bully you. My Jun family will use blood to wash away any grievances you've suffered. Even the Guan family won't be able to do so." Jun Wooey snorted coldly and resolutely said. Guan Qinghan's lips opened and closed. Her tender body trembled violently. But she didn't hesitate. She slowly knelt down and heavily kowtowed. Daughter Qinghan pays respect to Godfather. Good, good, good. Jun Wui was very happy. He shouted good 3 times. Then he took out a jade pendant and handed it over. Qinghan, this is Godfather's gift to you. It's also the symbol of our Jun family. Take this jade pendant. You must remember that you're not only the Guan family's daughter. You're also the Jun family's daughter. So, the Guan family will have to discuss your marriage with the Jun family from now on. Guan Qinghan took the jade pendant. She saw that the surface of the jade was smooth. The name Qinghan, my grandson, was engraved on it. It was written in Grandpa Jun's handwriting. It was obvious that this had been prepared a long time ago, and it wasn't something that could be taken out in a hurry. She couldn't help but be startled. She raised her head and looked at Jun Wui with a puzzled expression. This jade pendant was prepared by your grandfather a few years ago. Your grandfather had said that even if Qinghan doesn't become the Jun family's daughter-in-law, she's still the Jun family's daughter. Today, I fulfilled this old man's wish. Jun Wui chuckled. Qinghan, we've seen your suffering. We won't let you waste your life like this. As long as there's a living person in the Jun family, we won't allow anyone to bully you. At this point, Jun Wui sighed deeply and said, I'm going to go today. I don't know if I'll be able to live the day after tomorrow. So, there's nothing to say. Ever since you came to the Jun family, he has been somewhat moved. In the past, he had always been restricted by the relationship between uncle and sister-in-law. But now that the world has been made aware of this, he doesn't have to worry about this anymore. He smiled bitterly, but didn't continue. However, the meaning behind his words was clear to the 3 people present. The effect of this sentence was incomparable to the shock it brought to the 3 people present. So much so that the 3 people didn't notice that Jun Wui had secretly glanced at Dugu Xiaoyi after he had finished speaking. I've already given you some pointers on your path. But whether or not you'll be able to bring home the beauty in the end, or perhaps you'll be able to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But it'll all depend on your own methods. I most likely won't be able to see it. I, third uncle, have lost face by saying these words today. Sigh, I wouldn't have said these words if it weren't for the fact that there's no hope of survival tomorrow. Why would I say these words if it weren't for the fact that there's no hope of survival tomorrow? As an uncle, matchmaking for my nephew, the woman is another nephew's woman, plus the adopted daughter that I've just recognized. It doesn't sound good no matter whether it's successful or not. This can be considered as the dead being respected. Jun Moxie looked at Jun Wui dumbfoundedly. My third uncle, Sai, you really know how to get benefits for your nephew. We're going to fight tomorrow, but you still have the mood to think about this tonight. I can't help but admire you. You're really convinced and admiring. This is too valiant. Guan Qinghan's whole body trembled when she heard this. Her pretty face seemed to be covered with rouge in an instant. Her blush went all the way to her neck. Her crystal white little earlobes also seemed to turn red and transparent. She shyly glanced at Jun Moxie, whose mouth was as big as a hippopotamus, and deeply lowered her head. As for Dugu Xiaoyi, it was as if she had been struck by lightning. Her eyes were wide open, and her adorable face suddenly became deathly pale, without the slightest trace of blood. What? You call this a witness? Oh my God, I've been a witness for so long, but why do I feel that I've lost my lifelong happiness? What's going on? The little girl's heart suddenly swayed between gains and losses. She suddenly became nervous and anxious, and the way she looked at Guan Qinghan also changed. Why does this elder sister Guan, who has always been very amiable and congenial, look so ferocious and terrible at this moment? You actually want to steal my husband? No, everything can be discussed, but this is the only thing that can't be discussed. The little girl angrily rolled her eyes and kept thinking of countermeasures in her heart. Originally, Dugu Xiaoyi was still a little happy in her heart, because only she knew how good Jun Moxie was among the little sisters. The others regarded Jun Moxie as a big pervert, a big hooligan, a big bully, a big debauchee, and a complete lecher. Dugu Xiaoyi had been very complacent in her heart. She had a kind of happy feeling of making a fortune in silence. Of course, she couldn't say this kind of thought out loud. What if everyone knew and came to snatch him? Elder brother Jun is mine, mine alone. Therefore, during this period of time, Dugu Xiaoyi had been extremely tender and sweet to Jun Moxie. She wanted to quickly occupy him for herself. Gold will always shine. If others find out, I won't be able to monopolize this big advantage. Only when the delicious food is in my mouth and chewed up will I have the confidence that it will become mine. This sentence was said by my grandfather. Humph! Last time, Princess Rima suddenly made a blood oath. Although the motive was a little special, it still startled Dugu Xiaoyi. Fortunately, Jun Moxie didn't seem to have any feelings for Princess Raimu. Fortunately, it was because of that matter that Dugu Xiaoyi made up her mind to follow Jun Moxie all the way to Tianan. As the saying goes, the one who strikes first gains the advantage. If Princess Raimu took it seriously, no matter what she thought, she would find His Majesty to decree the marriage. Then, it would really be too late. Along the way, the little lass had deliberately flattered Guan Qinghan. She thought that with Guan Qinghan's help, she would have a higher chance of winning. However, she didn't expect that there would be a bolt from the blue today. According to the third uncle, he actually wanted to make Jun Moxie and Guan Qinghan a couple. The old hen directly became a duck, and the helper directly became a competitor. This was a typical case of going for wool and coming home shorn. She was too clever for her own good. How could this be? No. The more Dugu Xiaoyi thought about it, the angrier she became. She stuck out her small chest and roared with righteous indignation. Her voice was clear, crisp, fierce, and even a little fierce. It shook the tent and made a buzz. The other three were all startled by her and looked at her in astonishment. Dugu Xiaoyi didn't care about being shy. She rushed forward and hugged Jun Moxie's arm. She shouted as if she was declaring her sovereignty. He's mine. He's mine alone. You can't fight with me. Boo-hoo. As she spoke, she suddenly felt extremely wronged and burst into tears. Sobbing, she said, I've been eyeing him for a long time. How can you fight with me for him? He's mine, mine alone. I won't let anyone fight with me. Boo-hoo. Chapter 349. Dugu Xiaoyi's tone was like that of a little girl who had her sweets stolen, or like a child who had been staring at the fruits on the tree for half a year, waiting for the fruits to ripen. But when the fruits were about to ripen, two people came out of nowhere, looked at the fruits on the tree, and talked about how to divide them, but ignored her. She actually ignored me. She was driven mad and felt wrong to the point of being indescribable. Jun Wooey and the other two opened their eyes wide at the same time, and then burst out laughing almost at the same time. This girl's actions and expressions are too adorable. Jun Wooey's heavy heart and Guan Qinghan's embarrassment and shyness were driven away without a trace by this one action of hers. Dugu Xiaoyi realized what she had done when she saw the three of them staring at her. She couldn't help but pout and angrily said, It's mine. She realized that she had lost her composure after she had finished speaking. She didn't have a clear engagement with Jun Moxie, so she didn't have any position to make irresponsible remarks. Moreover, the third master Jun's request was tantamount to his dying wish. So, she shouldn't have caused such a disturbance. Not to mention, she was still acting as a notary at the moment, so she shouldn't have caused such a disturbance. Besides, how could these words be said by an unmarried young lady like her? Not to mention that she was the only daughter of the Dugu family. The little girl couldn't help but blush and quickly let go of Jun Moxie's hand. She bit her lips and stood there for a while in embarrassment, not knowing what to say to remedy the situation. The little girl didn't know what to say. Jun Wooey, Guan Qinghan, and Jun Daxiao also didn't know how to smooth things over. The three of them had been shocked by Dugu Xiaoyi's bold action and hadn't recovered yet. The four of them stared at each other in a stalemate for a moment. Suddenly, the little lass let out a squeal, covered her burning hot face, turned around, and rushed out as if there was a dog chasing after her. They only heard a loud bang and didn't know what she had hit. Emocia. Haha, your charm is not small. You haven't done anything yet, but you've already caused the Dugu family's precious daughter to fight for your affections." Jun Wui laughed heartily. Guan Qinghan's case hadn't been finalized yet. But how could he not understand that Dugu Xiaoyi was deeply in love with his nephew after witnessing this scene? So, she was completely at ease about his nephew's marriage. Moreover, the little girl's family background was of equal status. Moreover, the emperor would have to weigh the pros and cons if the Jun family and the Dugu family were to unite by marriage. So, even if the emperor wanted to target the Jun family, he would still have to weigh the pros and cons, and his nephew's good deed would come to an end. So, he would be able to smile in the underworld even if he were to die tomorrow. His only regret was that he wouldn't be able to drink his nephew's wedding wine. Jun Daxiao was also in an extremely awkward situation. He opened his mouth several times, but couldn't say a single word. He didn't know when he had become this little girl's personal property. So he spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders. His face seemed to be laughing and crying at the same time. He struggled to speak after a long while. "It's not my fault that I'm too handsome. Is this a crime?" Guan Qinghan's face turned cold as she snorted. But she didn't say anything. Then, her face turned red again after a long while, and it became as bright as the rosy clouds of the morning. Jun Wui smiled in a pleased manner, but he felt that what he had said a moment ago wasn't befitting of his status as an elder. Moreover, this matter had involved his recently adopted daughter. So, he smiled bitterly in embarrassment. Then, he waved his hand and said, "You can withdraw. I want some time to think about tomorrow's battle." Jun Moxie and Guan Qinghan looked at each other. Then, they withdrew at the same time. Jun Moxie wanted to say a few words to Guan Qinghan, but the moment he got out of the tent, Guan Qinghan disappeared with a swoosh. Her expression was one of panic, fear, and shyness. Jun Daxiao heaved a long sigh. He faced the clear sky and the bright moon. Then, he put on a self-admiring and infuriating posture. Then, he murmured coquettishly, "I'm a man who can cause the downfall of a nation. My body is as pure as ice and as pure as jade. Beautiful women blush when they see me. Beautiful women elope when they see me." Then, he swayed as he walked back to his tent in a self-indulgent manner. Inside the tent, Jun Wui flicked his sleeves. All the lights in the tent were extinguished. It was pitch black in an instant. After a while, the gentle moonlight shone into the tent. The candles that had just been extinguished were still emitting faint green smoke. The smoke rose and dissipated. Jun Wui's green-robed figure was hidden in the darkness. He didn't move anymore. Outside the tent, the three Dongfang brothers stood motionless with their hands on their swords. They didn't make a single sound. In fact, they were quietly accompanying their old brother. Tonight might be the last night of Jun Wui's third brother's life in this world. Brothers of flesh and blood were separated by the netherworld. But a hero shouldn't be lonely even if he's at the end of his road. "We'll accompany you." Guan Qinghan stood not too far from Jun Wui's tent. Tears silently flowed down her pretty face. But she didn't move. She didn't dare to make a single sound. "Third uncle, godfather, you won't be lonely tonight. Let your daughter accompany godfather for the first night. Perhaps it'll be his last night." The surroundings were quiet. Countless burly men from the Tianxiang military camp were fully armed. They looked like tall and straight wooden stakes as they stood outside the tents in a neat formation. The fervent eyes of the men were filled with sincere emotions. They did not move at all, and even deliberately suppressed their breathing to the lowest possible level. "We'll be throwing away our lives if we go to war. But the marshal has chosen to sacrifice himself. Tomorrow, the marshal will go to war. Tonight, let us accompany you. Marshal, you shouldn't be lonely. A hero shouldn't be lonely." The blood general was the idol of the army. This illustrious name would eventually be engraved in the hearts of Tianxiang soldiers, just like his elder brother, the white general Jun Wuhui. He would become a monument. He would become the legend of blood. The moonlight slowly rose into the sky. The clear blue sky shone brightly, and illuminated the mountains and rivers of the southern Heaven City. However, he had no idea how many men's blood would be spilled on this vast land that had once been bathed in the gentle light of the war tomorrow. A faint silhouette rushed out of the tent. It seemed as if it had melted into the air and disappeared into nothingness. Only the 3 Dongfang swords, whose cultivation had already reached the spirit Xian realm, felt as if something had moved above their heads. However, they looked at each other in astonishment and didn't discover anything. Jun Wui had vaguely sensed something in the tent, but he didn't care. In fact, he didn't care. It wouldn't be a big deal even if a top-notch assassin were to assassinate him. After all, he was going to step on the road to the Yellow Springs tomorrow. So, what harm was there in dying a little earlier? Therefore, he really didn't care about anything. As for the others, they didn't even seem to be aware of this trace. Jun Moxie had finally dealt with the last candidate, Bailey Luo Yun. So, he came back with a small bottle in his hand. I hope that this small bottle is useful. If it's useless, then I'll have to personally go to the battlefield and turn the tide. However, if those fellows who hope for third uncle's death were to see third uncle return safe and sound, wouldn't that be a wonderful and pleasant surprise? The bright moon was setting in the west, and Dongfang was gradually getting brighter. Dawn always comes after darkness. In the tent, Jun Wui slowly stood up. He took 2 steps and then hesitated for a moment. But he eventually decided to sit in his wheelchair. His legs had long since healed, and even his martial arts that had been neglected for 10 years had been restored. But if he were to reveal it now, it would be hard to say whether the emperor, who was bent on finding trouble with the aristocratic families, would accuse the Jun family of deceiving the emperor. If that were to happen, then even if he knew in the underworld, he would not be able to rest in peace. His legs wouldn't change even if he were to face the siege of countless high-level Shin beasts. I'm going to die anyway. So, why should I add a groundless accusation to my family? Jun Wui slowly turned his wheelchair. Then, he waved his right hand, and the sword on the wall flew into his hand. Then, he quietly opened the door. He had just stepped out of the tent when he was startled by what he saw. The third Master Jun had always been calm and collected, but he had still been startled. What kind of terrifying scene was this? Dongfang's 3 swords were standing outside the door. They saw him come out. Dongfang Wenqing smiled faintly. Then, she quickly walked behind Jun Wui and pushed his wheelchair. There was a sea of people on both sides of the tent. More than 20,000 soldiers were lined up neatly. They looked at him without saying a word. Everyone's eyes were somewhat red. Jun Wui's eyes were also somewhat red. He took a deep breath and said, "What are you all doing here? Everyone should disperse. It's not like we're going to be separated by life and death. Is there a need to be like this?" No one moved. How is it not a separation by life and death? Everyone knows what's going on. Jun Wui remained silent for a while. He looked at the familiar faces around him with a complicated look in his eyes. A long time passed. Then his eyes gradually became firm. He gently raised his right hand and shouted, "Today's combatants, step forward." 300 soldiers neatly stepped forward as soon as the order was issued. A few of them hesitated for a moment, but they still stood in line without any hesitation. They formed a phalanx behind Jun Wui. Dongfang Wenqing pushed his wheelchair and slowly walked out. 300 people followed behind him, and it looked like he was about to leave. Suddenly, a shout was heard. Wait! It was Jun Moxie. His face was solemn. He waved his hand and said, "How can we not have wine to send off the heroes of Tianxiang? Bring out the wine. Only the best wine is worthy of our Tianxiang's warriors. Mo Xie wishes that all of you will return triumphantly." Behind him, some people immediately rushed out with wine jars. Others carried large bowls and filled them to the brim. There was a faint apologetic look in Jun Moxie's eyes. Perhaps he had some conflicts with these people in the past, but they stood up resolutely today. Even though they knew that they were going to die, they still walked forward proudly. Not a single one of them retreated. Just this point alone was enough to earn Jun Moxie's respect. It didn't matter if they were good or bad in the past. To be able to face death without batting an eyelid was a hero, a real man. There's no such thing as good or bad among heroes. But I'm sorry. I could have saved you. Saving you would have been as easy as lifting a finger. But I can't. People can't die in a war. And this is even more true in a war that's certain to be lost. For the sake of the third uncle and the June family, I can't save you. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.